Hello and welcome to the Yerky Boys. May the Kandrona shine and strengthen you. My name is Will.
My name is Jonathan.
And we are
the Yerky Boys.
Book 41, The Familiar. We're into the we're past Megamorphs. We're getting to the final bit here.
Yeah, we're in the final stretch, except there's not by our season separation.
We're in the penultimate stretch.
We are in the penultimate stretch of the Animorphs Book series. And as you indicated, this week, The Familiar, which was released in April of 2000, is that right?
God damn.
So this and Back to Before,
Holy
same
shit.
month.
Yeah, I think that is usual at this point, the Megamorphs and the books, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's happened before, but it's still like, that's a lot of book for, also, I mean, we'll get into it, but both of these books in 1 month is a choice.
Yeah. Sure, it sure fucking is a choice.
Or maybe the lack of a choice. It's hard to say what was going on exactly behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But last week was a very long episode. It was an action-packed, epic, double-length, or 1/3 extra length.
Yeah. Longer.
0.5x length, annual sort of an episode. We had a lot to say. We had songs. We had emails. This week, I don't have anything. I'm ready to jump right into it.
Yeah. Well, the fans all decided after that episode, no more emails, no more nothing. So
that's right. They realized that they're the problem.
Yeah, they saw just how many goddamn emails we read and realized they should stop writing in theyerkyboys@gmail.com.
We should say though that we should just take this opportunity to plug our Patreon. It's normal to do it at the top of a show. This is podcast etiquette. This is normal.
All
just
right.
real quick.
You're a normal guy.
Patreon.com/theyerkyboys. If you like the show, you want to support us, because this week we're talking about the X-Files. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And last week we talked about something else. So, okay, that's it. We'll talk about it at the end of the show again. That's it.
Flies or something. Yeah. So we're talking about being in the penultimate stretch here.
Yeah.
One of the things that's going to define this penultimate stretch is a little ghostwriter by the name of Ellen. I didn't know how to say this last time either. Garou?
I like to say Garou.
Garou.
Which again sounds like something Richard Nixon would say.
Isn't that? No, that
Ellen
was in Nine Sifter, wasn't it? The Karam Garou incident?
Yeah.
I have it in my notes for like 2 books ago.
I think it was. But anyway, Ellen Garou.
Yeah, she did book 33, which is the one where Tobias gets tortured, so we have seen her before. But she is going to be with us on every other book for the rest of season 4. She did 41, 43, 45, and 47. So until we finish this series, she's every other book.
Every other book. Wow.
Yeah.
This season, you mean?
This season, yeah.
Yeah, for the final stretch we'll have different, but yeah, while we're in the 40s, she's a dominating force.
Yes, yeah, she's gonna be so I hope you like your Ellen Garou here.
And she also has it looks like more books than any other ghostwriter.
Yes, the most.
So that's that's clearly, I don't know if that says something about her talent or her availability in terms of like, not from our opinions, but from Scholastic's standpoint and Kay Applegate's. Were they like, oh, this is a good egg, or were they just like, she's around still?
She's not burned out. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about this because, early on we look at these books and we see, they're coming out every goddamn month, and it's like, that's an insane schedule to keep up, to put out one of these every month. And so Ellen's putting them out every 2 months, which is a little bit more reasonable. It almost does kind of feel to me like she is just like, I am an Animorphs ghostwriter full time, and I'm just going to but I'm not going to work at an insane schedule. I'm going to work at a reasonable-ish schedule.
Right,
2 months is still kind of fast to me, but like, I don't know. I don't do it professionally.
Yeah, it still seems pretty crazy, but I guess yeah, this was just a fun year for her. She got to be an Animorphs writer for a year.
Yeah.
She besides that gap. By the way, listen to this. Listen to this. What do you think about this?
Yeah. Let me hear the...
Did you hear it?
No, I didn't.
Did you hear that? Did you hear it this time? Can you hear it?
Isn't the Dr. Gero, isn't that the guy from Dragon Ball Z who made the robots? Androids? So maybe this is his wife. Are you having fun over there?
I have a sound button now. I'm gonna. Anyway, according to howtopronounce.com,
ruin the podcast.
howtopronounce.com says it's Jero. Jero. I just want to.
All right.
We're gonna have Ellen Jero books for so many books. We should put some respect on her name.
That's fair. That's
Ellen.
Yeah, and the best way to do that is to have a soundboard.
Jero. No, I'm just gonna do it. Well, I will. I do think we should
this
say
is a problem.
We'll get into it, but coming from Ellen's last book, the 33, which was the book with Taylor in it, The Illusion.
Yeah. Yes.
I think both of us like that book. I think maybe you like it a little more than I did, but I think we both thought it was like a decent, good book. I don't remember we gave it a rating. I don't remember what it was.
The rating I gave it was, it is worse than every other A and better than every other B. And you said that you couldn't decide whether it was an A or a B. And we think we decided on A, but we seem to be fairly well agreed upon it's somewhere in between.
Yeah, I'm looking and referencing what we did. Oh yeah, no, wait, where is it? The Illusion. Did I not?
Yeah, The Illusion. We should have rated it an A, because I think we decided to just give it to her, because the season wasn't that good.
Am I looking at the wrong thing? Oh, right, because he's an Andalite. I got confused because it's the cover is a hawk and an Andalite. I don't know what I'm looking for. Yeah, we did give it an A. Yeah, we did put it up. Well, I think we thought it was better than The Pretender. Is that right?
What? No, we didn't. I think that just might be. That's definitely not right.
I don't know. Maybe it's better than I don't remember which one that is.
It's definitely not.
Well, whatever. It doesn't matter.
It's a Marco book, John.
It is?
Yeah.
I thought.
Or no. I'm sorry.
No, that's Tobias on the cover.
That's the fucking. Oh my god. The other. Okay. Yeah. No, The Pretender's the 23.
Uh-oh. Animorphs
it's
expert
because they have
over
the same
here.
Goddamn name, practically. Whatever. It's fine.
You're thinking of the Changer Ranger or some shit.
Oh god. Okay.
Anyway, yeah, those two Tobias books. But anyway, just to establish, so going into actually, I didn't know. I didn't look at who the ghostwriter was, but for the purposes of illustrating it, this is someone that we think is competent, at least.
Yeah.
No disasters going into this. I also did not look at the cover before reading the book, although you did allude to its contents at the end of last week's episode.
Yeah. Do you want to move to the cover?
I'm ready.
All right, let's take a look at this cover. Now, I switched things up last time. I wasn't sure if I should go with Jake turns into an adult, Jake turns into Jake, or Jake. I went with Jake turns 25 because I thought it was the funniest one. But yeah, on this cover, there's not. Basically, it's an age progression of Jake, and also he gets a sci-fi jumpsuit.
He gets a sci-fi jumpsuit that looks much cheaper than I envisioned reading the book. It looks like a Mystery Science Theater Gizmoplex jumpsuit.
It really does.
I mean,
if
straight
he
up.
fucking walked on screen with Joel or somebody, I'd just be like, sure.
Yes. He's there to fix something. Yeah, he's got like a lightning bolt and the number 5 on his shoulder. And some kind of a communications pad device, like the size of a brick, hanging on his belt, Which, I mean, this is the year 2000, so they couldn't envision a smaller cell phone by then that this is supposed to take place in, 10 years. That's
Yeah, they're
fine.
still going off the like 60s Star Trek aesthetic.
Yes, very, very much so.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I don't know if KA had any actual. I don't know whose decision that was because I guess it's David Mattingly. I guess he designed that probably, or was it like a
Yeah.
prop that
I don't
somebody
fucking
made? Yeah, is there
No,
more?
that's like drawn in there. That's not a
You
real
think?
thing. There's
Yeah, I
no way
can't.
that's not fucking real.
Well,
If that's real,
it could have been, there could have been a prop that he like based it on or drew
yeah.
over or something. I don't know. I don't know how they did this shit. We have to listen to that interview on that other podcast that someone recommended.
Yeah, that's like 4 hours long or whatever.
But I don't know. What do you think, or did you think, like you pick this up in the bookstore as a kid or whoever, not knowing what this book is about? What the fuck do you take away from this cover?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the problem is that you do sort of know what it's about because like there is a little thing on the
Well,
back.
but you
There is like
look
a
at the
little
cover first, though, don't you? Before you read the back.
Well, also there's always like a preview chapter in the book before. So as a kid you
Oh,
kind of know. If you weren't a fan though, if you just came in and picked this up, yeah, I don't fucking know. Wait, like it I definitely if I had no idea, I don't know if I would think that was Jake. I might be like, "Oh, he just I don't fucking know. He morphed Captain Kirk." I don't Maybe there's like there's like a Star-Lord situation where there's a human who's just like out in space and Jake has to morph him.
right. Yeah. Well, so is the only cover I think that is not. Maybe that's not true because maybe a Tobias one or something. But technically, this is not a morph. Like they're showing.
Yeah.
This is not a morph. This is an age. We're gonna, we were not talking about the plot of the book yet, but Jake does not morph into this older Jake. He just becomes older, I
Yeah, I
guess.
mean, other than alternate books, the Megamorphs and
Yeah, yeah.
Chronicles, and the last book, which is going to do like kind of a fun thing. Um,
I think
yeah,
I've
I think
actually
this is the
seen that, but yeah.
only non-morph. Yeah,
Yeah, it's so that's pretty weird. As we've said also from last week, this is the original Jake model still, right? They did
yes,
this.
this is still the original Jake model. This one and next book will be originals.
So I wonder, like, I assume they didn't get three individuals who looked sort of like in between ages of the Jakes to pose. But I assume they are there two models? Did they get an adult Jake and then they filled in the gaps, or did they just invent the all the other faces based off of young Jake's face? Maybe I don't know what they did.
I almost feel. I wonder if because if David Mattingly actually like painted this new Jake, uh, I'm looking at it, and the original Jake, the kid Jake, looks more fake than the adult. In fact, the adult might look the most real of any of them. I almost wonder if he touched up the other ones to make them look a little bit more fake so that it wouldn't stand out so much.
I kind of glanced at the trivia on Seropedia to see if they said anything about this, but I don't think they do.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a mystery for us.
A mystery.
There's
Quote on the cover is "They're out of sight, you're out of mind." Dot 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 dot.
completely has nothing to do with what you're looking at.
I
And
also know I can't even begin to parse what that's trying to say.
I think, okay, I believe what they are saying is, so it's a play
Yeah.
on out of sight, out of mind, right?
Right. Yeah.
The Yerks are out of sight. They're the they.
Okay.
And while they're out of sight, they're in your brain and you're out of your mind.
I
So
see.
that, yeah.
I'm like the problem is that I'm like fucking trying
Or,
to parse it as though it means the original thing, where it's like so you're not thinking about
yeah, no, it's not
us the year,
that.
but they yeah, it's not that. Okay.
It could be the Animorphs are out of sight because they're like hiding from the Yerks, maybe?
But one way or another, we're being infested.
I guess. I
Yeah,
think the they is the Yerks. I think
that's
that's how I'm reading it.
that makes sense when you said it. How about this?
Great.
How about this? They're out of sight. You're out of mind. How about that?
I don't know what that is.
Like the out of touch, the Hall and Oates.
I don't know that song.
That's not true. You're just lying now.
I know. I know. I know that other one.
All right.
You make my dreams come true. Woo!
All right.
Inside.
Inside. Quote is better. It's all grown up and no place to go. ...
That's good. That's pretty
That
good.
one I like. That one almost has like a Rugrats vibe to it.
That should be on the cover, on the front cover.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
It's good.
All growed up.
All growed up.
And
now,
then
the inner
we
cover
see,
here.
yes, there he is. He's standing in his place.
Yeah, in his place.
He's in a future sci-fi room.
Mm-hmm.
There's a, yeah, go ahead. You say it.
Well, okay, there's a couple of things here. There's a screen here that says to do report to work in like almost like a Comic Sans font.
I would say not Comic Sans. It's like it is one of those staple early cheesy fonts. Like I feel like you would see it on either like a caveman thing or like a sign for Australia, like in a classroom. Like
it's not actually Comic Sans, but it does have the sort of like all of the lines are like thick rounded edges, or you know what I mean? Like the end of a letter.
Sure. It also says the time at the top, which is 5:58:16. Is that a time or a countdown? It's a time, I think.
That's a time, yeah.
Yeah.
You've just never been awake at that time.
Oh, I have at night.
Now he's also, there's like a reflection of him, and I'm honestly not actually sure what he's being reflected in here.
I think it's his doorway. If there's like a metal frame. I guess it's kind of confusing. Does he have 2 rooms in his little home?
I guess maybe that's the bathroom he's in. I don't know.
But that's not where the screen should be. Also, I mean, in the book, it is very clearly indicated that the screen he has is triangular, and this one is square.
I didn't even remember that detail.
Yeah, well, so that's a pretty big fuck up.
Right there. That is a pretty big fuck up.
In the background, there's like a Blade Runner-esque city, except unlike Blade Runner, it's got Lisa Frank colors over everything.
Yeah.
Different kind of it looks a bit too. If people haven't read this book, then they are just sitting there like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So bear with us, but I feel like out the window it looks a little bit too. I don't know, like it looks too bright and colorful and fun compared to
nice,
what the
colorful
book is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely agree. Now this inner cover here has an Orson watch.
Oh. Where is he?
Through Jake's window, you can see a rather futuristic billboard for cat food featuring cameo cat extraordinaire Orson, the cover artist David Mattingly's cat.
I see it. I couldn't tell you that was for cat food, but I see what looks like a cat shape.
Yeah, I did find it. Some of these Orson watches I look and I'm like, that's not really there, but this one I did see. So
I'm also zooming in and looking at what's on his screen on his little shitty cell phone. It looks like an image of the inside of a tunnel or a sewer or something. I don't know what the fuck that is. There is something on it though. It's like it's all green like a Game Boy screen. There's also I don't know what's going on with this thing. I thought there would be, I guess those are buttons at the bottom, like numbers to dial a number, I guess. And then the middle is like a big trackpad, almost like an iPod looking a round dial maybe that you use to do something.
Yeah. What's going on with his pants?
They are pretty, they don't fit. They're way too big. And there's two big are they pockets down at the bottom?
Yeah,
What's going on?
or like like a belt loop or something, except that it's down like below the knee and there's like buckles on it. Like, what the hell? This is like some AI pants.
It's future pants. That's what they look like in the future. And
I
then he's
don't
got a couple
fucking
of
know. It's
books
weird.
back there too. He's been reading.
That's nice. I'm glad for him.
And some nice inner piping.
I think he's not supposed to have books.
Probably not. And neither
All
are
right.
we.
Yeah, I think we probably need to
But
take
we
that
got
away at
him.
this point.
We got
We
the
sure
books.
do.
Let's
We
start
sure
reading.
do. All right. Okay. So let's get this book started, baby.
Yeah.
So once again, like last week, we open in Medea Res, in a horrific, gory fight scene type thing. Your regular Animorphs, guts spilling out, blood everywhere, dying thing. The Animorphs are badly outnumbered and they are losing and they are forced to retreat. There's a bit where Rachel refuses to leave and she's just going on a berserker rampage, and Marco has to like drag her out, even as Jake is like, "Oh, we gotta leave him behind, no choice, right?" So it's a whole mess. They get out, but they fail in their goal, and there's a massive like group meltdown. Cassie's freaking out about all the killing she did. Marco and Rachel are pissed off at each other because Rachel wanted to kill more, and Marco was like, "You almost got me killed." They all go home, and Jake doesn't really have the energy to deal with any of it, right? Like he's like, I can't break it up, really. I can't go comfort Cassie. Like, just everybody go home. I'm going to bed. He goes home. He runs into Tom while he's still like barefoot in his morphing outfit. There's some like brotherly stuff, but it's a little suspicious, and
Like that fanfic you read?
it's a lot like that fanfic I read. Go check out our
Patreon
Patreon for
reference.
that
Sorry.
one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jake goes off to bed, and even though Tom seems pretty suspicious, he is too tired to care and passes out and goes to sleep. So here's our opening.
I mean, I don't know that I can save this obvious thing that we kind of have to discuss overall with this book, because
Mhm.
it comes, it's like right away it hits you
Yeah.
that this is, as you said, extremely similar to the opening of Megamorphs 4.
Yeah, even before we get to the next part, it's just like, oh yeah, we already like the opening to last book was Jake POV, big fight, it's horrible, and Jake is exhausted and can't deal with it anymore. And but that time the Drode shows up, and this time there's no Drode.
True. This time there's no Dro, but it's yet another. Boy, the Animorphs really have it rough, and like they're hitting their limits, and look how shitty it is to be an Animorph.
Right.
It's and as I was reading it, I was like, wow, this is really this big breakdown kind of should have come before the Drode book. Oh wait, it did. they did do that.
Yeah.
they're doing it again, which I guess fair. I mean, it's not like canonically. I don't know what I'm looking for here in terms of the reality of the series. It's not unreasonable or unbelievable that they would be going through horrible battles every single week or whatever. So it just is like presented in a very similar fashion to what we just read, which is a little weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's not unfair to do it again, because it's not just like, oh well, but it keeps happening, so we'll keep doing it. There's also like, thematically, one of the things we have to ask is like, how are the characters dealing with it? And last book we kind of did an It's a Wonderful Life with Jake, but because he doesn't really remember it, you kind of got like you can see him be weak in that one moment, but then what you're really exploring is these characters before and not like in that moment. Whereas in this book, I think
True.
there is an attempt to kind of try to explore what is happening with these characters here, if that makes sense.
That's true. In that way, it almost like is a perfect companion to the last book, like the other side of that coin. And you also get, as you said, Cassie specifically, reflecting on all of the violence and murder that she's
Hmm.
been a party to. And I'm like, yeah, she's right, and she should probably be saying this kind of stuff more often. But
Hmm.
it kind of just feels like this. It depends on who's writing it, if they remember that Cassie cares about that sort of thing or not, or if it's too inconvenient for the or drag down the plot for her to bring that up all the time, or it's too depressing.
Yeah,
uh,
I definitely feel that. And then there's also some, level of like, it might be because in this book, there's like a whole point made, right, about how Jake, like, he's like, I don't even have the energy to talk Cassie down or whatever. And so I don't know. I feel like there is some sense here that, oh, maybe there's kind of like a status quo of like Cassie gets really upset and then Jake goes and comforts her. And I don't know if that's sustainable, but it's what we're doing. And like this is particularly notable, and we want to draw attention to it as an author because in this particular case, Jake doesn't even have the energy to do that, right? He's like, axe walk her home. I'm not going to talk to her, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, and this is kind of setting the stage for a larger theme of this whole
Hmm.
book that I think will come up later. That I think
Hmm.
we'll probably have a pretty interesting discussion about, as we
Sure, sure.
as we love to do on this show. All our discussions are interesting.
Yeah,
I say
everyone's very interested.
interesting is not a good. I'm just going to say now. I'll point it out, and now everyone will notice it. I feel like I use that too much, and it's not a good word. It's like saying
Mm.
something is boring. It's not. It doesn't. Saying something is interesting is just. It doesn't tell you anything. It's a bad word to
Yeah.
use to describe your opinion on something.
Yeah, it means I have an opinion that I'd like to talk about, but I don't really know what it is yet.
Yeah, it just means I'm thinking about it. Anyway, I'll
Yeah.
now I put that out there. Now you can keep going. I do like that this section is kind of reminded me of a scary elevator level in a video game. I know you're not a gamer,
Hmm.
but a lot of video games will do it's kind of a trope, I feel, especially in first person shooters or sometimes other kinds of action games where you have to fight off a wave of enemies, and it's you have to wait for an elevator to come down, or you have to wait
Hmm.
for a door to open, and you gotta it's like a timer of 5 minutes, and you gotta survive until then. There's all this tension. So that's at least it is kind of an interesting fight in that way. It's not just like in the Drode book, the last book, we didn't really did we even get to see the battle that was so horrible? Or he kind of describes it or talks about the
Yeah,
aftermath.
yeah, I think in the last book it was more the aftermath. Like the horror in the last book was like reckoning with what they had done. Because you have like the controller who's dying in front of them and is like help me and all that. Whereas in this book it's a lot more like the stress that having to do this is putting on them, right? Like, you've got the door closing, you've got the guts spilling out, you've got, do I leave Marco and Rachel behind or not, right? Like that, that's a decision Jake has to make, which is an intense one. Um, and then like you have the big group dynamic breakdown. So it's more about the stress that's being put on the group. What
Yeah,
was
so
I talking about when I
appreciate
started
that.
saying that? I don't remember.
Just that. Well, I don't know. I was saying that. Yeah, I like that you at least you get to see it. They actually
Yeah,
show the fight.
yeah.
So in that way, like the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, it is still strange that these came out so close together, and it does still feel redundant. But examining them closely, at least it isn't a total retread. They do show you kind of different sides of it,
Hmm.
but it is weird. um,
Yeah.
what
I
else?
would agree with all that. Yeah, 100%.
A few things I noted in the beginning. Jake mentions that the Yerks are taking thousands of hosts a day. I don't know if that's a number that we were aware of before this, or if there were estimates, but I read that and I was like, oh damn, we're losing thousands a day. That sounds like so many. That feels like California's done in a in a year. Like, I mean, I don't know
Well,
population numbers, but still, that's like pretty bad. Thousands a day? That's so many. Am I wrong?
y- yeah, I mean that is a lot. That's not anywhere near California's done in a year, but
It might be.
you can expect that these things ramp up, right? Where you'll be like, look, if I'm starting off with tens a day, and then after a year I get thousands a day, in a year, what am I doing? Am I actually like just sweeping across the United States? Because the more they have, the more they can take.
And
I
are
do
these
think that's a
thousands
large
of
number,
yeah, like of the 1,000, I guess how many are school kids and how many are senators is also important.
right? Yeah, but
But
I do think it's a large number. I do think you are supposed to have the sense that they are losing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they have given us that sense before, but yeah, just seeing a raw number like that felt pretty scary.
Hmm.
Axe is in human form in this book, and he is referred to as oddly good looking, but not disturbing.
Mm. Jake doesn't mind.
Yeah, right. He's not disturbed by it.
Yeah,
It's odd, but he likes
yeah,
it.
I'm into it. Yeah,
There's
who
also
wouldn't
a
say
reference
I'm
to
disturbed?
to Tobias of being kind of acting kind of strange, and Jake says he hasn't been the same since the Taylor incident, since he was
Hmm.
tortured.
Hmm.
I don't think Taylor gets name dropped, but since he was tortured, he says. And when I read the book, my first reaction to that was, has he not been the same? Like, this is news to me. I don't know that I was aware of him being like visibly fucked up by that in a way that was noticeable as a reader. And then I realize, oh well, it's the same author who wrote that
Right.
book,
Yeah.
so that's why it got referenced. She's probably like, yeah, that should have done something. I wrote that. Why hasn't anyone else mentioned that since then? What the
I
fuck?
do think that Tobias has felt a little more withdrawn and bird-like, but yeah, it doesn't really feel like book 33 did that. It feels more like he's just being more and more bird-like as the series continues. Um
Right.
but yeah, absolutely. I think that that yeah, she's just proud of what she did, and she's like, "Come on. Come on. You got fucking tortured."
Yeah, she's
Just
right. I mean,
yeah.
it should have been brought up more. Like, he should be traumatized from that incident. I guess they all
Mhm.
are traumatized from it. There's too many traumatic incidents that it's hard to pinpoint just one, but
Yeah, yeah. No, like that's kind of the point of this opener is that they're all pretty fucking dramatic. Rachel's, for example, is an absolute psychopath in this. Like
yeah.
just straight up, like Jake's like, we have to retreat because we're losing, and Rachel's like, fuck that, I'm gonna keep killing people, and you guys can leave. And Marco's like, Jake, I'm gonna try to drag her out. You guys go on ahead, or if you stay back here with her, you'll die. And he only just barely manages to drag her out as a gorilla. And Rachel's just like, Marco, how dare you? How dare you drag me out of there? I was too busy killing.
Yeah,
Like she's got some issues in this
it
book.
is pretty the scene itself is fairly upsetting, as is
Yeah.
kind of the norm at this point, but
Yeah.
they keep doing it. They keep upsetting me. So good
Yeah.
kudos to them.
They do got to keep doing it. Um, how about the part where they come home, or where Jake comes home to Tom here?
Yeah,
Because
that
I like this bit a lot.
yeah, I always I think both of us are always up for more Jake Tom stuff.
I'm
There's
always up for it.
well, yeah, in
Go
whatever
check
form
out
it
our
takes.
fan fiction episode.
Patreon.com/the Boys. But because there's not really enough of it. And it did feel like, oh, is this going to be a Tom book? I was kind of excited to see, because it does feel he starts to, you think he's suspicious of Jake here.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, I think we've said he should have been suspicious of Jake probably 2 years ago.
Yeah. And I feel
But
like
we'll
the
see.
last time we saw Tom actually be suspicious of Jake was like book 6,
Yeah.
you know? Like
Or
immediately we have this cool suspicious Tom thread, and then we just kind of forget about it. I like that it's kind of back here. Um
yeah, I'm thinking it's back.
yeah, and I think this is a good that suspicious Tom is a good like end game plot. And
Hmm.
if we only had 7 books left as opposed to 14 books, this whole book would probably be about that, but it's not going to be.
See, I feel like I'm getting ahead of ourselves. If
Uh-huh.
I'm rebooting it, if Animorphs, if this was a TV show,
Mhm.
like I think we've said, like you got to do something with that, and you just I think you need to find a way to pivot it. Like maybe Tom finds out and they kidnap him or something, or and then they now he's got to go on the run because the Yerk they Kandrona starved the Yerk, but the Yerks are going to try to find him, so they have to keep him hidden. I don't know.
Mhm.
There's stuff you can do to kind of keep that plot running that isn't just one of them kills the other,
Yeah. Yeah.
or doing nothing with it, which is what they choose to do. But it's fine.
Yeah. Listen, I think you can keep like all the suspicious Tom stuff because I don't think it drags on too long in these books. They just forget about it for
Well,
35 books.
that's the
But if
problem
you take out those
slash
35 books and just keep the amount, that's like the right amount.
yeah, it's a problem, but and it's also how they get away with it is because they just don't
Yeah.
focus on it. But
Yeah,
if
yeah,
if,
yeah.
if you look back and go, wait a minute, how much time has passed? Like there must be stuff going on in his house. It doesn't really make sense. But
Yeah.
whatever.
But yeah, it's good. It's ominous, right? Like Tom being like, "What's that blood all over your leg? Why are you in that
Yeah, yeah.
weird Viking outfit? What's going?" And then like Jake's like trying to fall asleep, and Tom's just like standing outside his door ominously.
It's
Yeah,
creepy,
it's good.
and
It
it
is
makes
creepy.
you it makes you wonder about the what happens next. Made me wonder.
Like
So
about what's actually going to happen, or were you thinking, well, during that scene, oh shit, is something going to happen? Is Tom going to do something?
well, but that too. But I guess I meant like during the next part. Now I'm wondering does what happens now is that a direct result of that scene or unrelated? What the
Hmm.
fuck's going on, which we'll get to.
Yeah, and I think yeah, that is something that'll be yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. So okay. So Jake, as you said, passed out because he was exhausted. He wakes up in the morning, he is woken up by an alarm. He is not in his own room. There is like a computer on the wall, like we saw in the beginning page of the book, being like report to work. And Jake
Triangular.
triangular. And Jake realizes also that he has the body of an adult. He's around 10 years older. He's in his own body, but now he's 25 years old. He's in the future. Um what the heck? He woke up in the future. He's in his futuristic apartment, orange jumpsuit. Apartment's kind of like Jetsons-y, but in like an ominous way. Like maybe it's like
Ominish
1984ish
is a
more.
scary Quaker. Right?
The
Okay.
Amish aren't Quakers, but I get where you're coming from.
I had to not
You
say Amish to make the joke
Yeah,
work.
a Mennonite. The problem is you don't come
Fine.
from PA, so you aren't just like, yeah, oh yeah, I already know about the Quakers and the Amish. They live
I
near
knew it
me.
was wrong, but I didn't know enough to know what was right, so I just did it.
Anyway, yeah, Jake looks out the window and he's like, "Oh, I'm in New York City, and there's like bug fighters flying around, and also Andalite fighters just flying around." So not only did he wake up in the future, but it's a dystopian future where the Yerks have won, and they won like so completely that the Andalites are also all taken over. Um.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. You were starting to bring up how this book is similar to Megamorphs 4. And I think this is really where you're going to be where it's just like, "Oh, yeah, okay. Yep. Yep. Yep."
Yes,
I
this
see.
is 2 books in a row, and now we have learned
Yeah.
in the same month.
In the same month. Yeah.
So less than 4 weeks apart, these are on shelves where the Animorphs are the reality is altered. They are taken to in the last book it was an alternate past, now it's an alternate future.
Yes.
And I don't know if usually we like to play coy about our overall feelings on a book until the end. Uh,
Sometimes.
but I guess I'll just say it up front. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think the biggest problem with this book has nothing to do with the book itself, and is only because these two books are right next to each other.
Mhm.
And I don't know whose decision that was, when in planning this happened, if they didn't know what Megamorphs 4 was going to be. I don't know what I have to imagine this wasn't intentional. Like these two things, just the scheduling made it turn out this way, because
Mhm.
I think it's a terrible decision that does not help this book. It really,
Yeah.
it's very hard to read this and not go, yeah, we just did this.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
but that's not to say
and
I didn't like it, but
yeah,
that's just
no,
there.
I do think that some of my overall feelings are more complicated than you might think, because this is the sort of thing where I immediately am like, oh, they're in an altered reality. Well, you better have a point to this. Um, but I yeah, like once you start getting into this part of the series, I do think that it starts becoming very difficult not to be harsh on the books for things outside of their control. Like, oh, we just did Megamorphs, or like, okay, I basically this is just a cobbling together of four plots we already saw, or like, okay, we when are we going to do something that matters type of thing. Like there's a kind of fatigue setting in. So I don't think it is unfair to judge this, or maybe it's unfair to judge this book for that, but it's like going to be a common unfairness, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, the good thing, the advantage of doing a story like this is that it's a reasonable excuse almost to
Mhm.
me to not progress the storyline.
Mhm.
Because it's like, when we're reading the book with the gay Andalites, and I'm going, well, why aren't these Andalites doing something to help with the plot? Like, why,
Mhm.
or why isn't Krayak doing, or like, what the hell's going on with all this shit? What's going on with nine sifter? But here it's like, oh well, that's all just irrelevant. So I'm not. It almost is like a
Mm.
cheat.
Mm.
It's like, oh, this, I'm not thinking about that stuff. It's an excuse to not progress the plot in a way that maybe should annoy me, but doesn't, in that regard at least. I don't
Mm.
know,
Yeah,
but
because I feel like I have the opposite thing where I'm like, well, they're not progressing the plot, but at least they're thinking about the plot and adding details that make me more informed about it. Whereas in this book, I'm like, the author made well, maybe not the ghostwriter, but like somebody made a distinct decision to definitely not go anywhere near the plot with this book.
yeah, I guess that's
uh,
true. It's like same thing I kind of said with the the Buffa human, as I have a I, I almost would rather, like, if you're gonna not progress the plot, then just do something completely off the wall that's in
mhm,
another universe or whatever. But it's like, if you're hanging out with Visser 3, then why isn't he talking about what's going on with Visser 1? Or I don't know. I have those lingering questions, but I can kind of see both angles of it. Also, compounding the issue, you were saying, of the alternate universe, and is this going to matter or not, is the fact that the thing that happens right before all this is that Jake falls asleep. So
mhm,
the obvious assumption, or at
mhm.
least something you have to consider, is that this is all literally just a dream, which is, most people would agree, the worst cliche of any media, of any fiction.
Mhm. And no spoilers, but that might be closer to true than you would hope it would be.
Yeah, I'm like, like, that's the question. Is this A, a dream? Is this
Mhm,
B, a literal, did he literally get teleported to the future?
mhm.
And if that's the case, then is it the Gerode again? Even Jake is like, is this the fucking Elemist?
Yeah,
Is this
yeah,
fucking Krayak? What the fuck is this shit?
yeah.
Did the Helmicrons do this? So there's a lot going on with that.
Our listeners know it's not the Helmicrons, because if it was, I would show up to the podcast like, sorry, John killed himself this week. We can't.
I would leave a suicide note addressed to K.A. Applegate.
No, I mean the immediate parallel that you go to here is in book 7, where they first meet the Elemist, and they do the same thing. Like, the Animorphs are teleported to a dystopian future in which the Yeerks have won.
Oh,
Right?
right. Wait, when was that? When did that happen?
Book 7.
That's the one where Rachel was like Visser 1, basically, or something?
Yeah,
She was
Rachel was one of Visser 3 was Visser 1, Rachel was one of his, like, lieutenants, and also Rachel ate Tobias in that book.
I remember when we read that, I was thinking about that. I remember I thought, oh wow, I'm pretty sure I said this on the show, like, oh, this is the future of Rachel, and this is going to be important for her development of not wanting to become that. That's never
Mhm.
fucking brought up ever again. That's not, doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. Now
Anyway,
in that book, the future is like a small, well, not a small, but like maybe like a third of the book or something. There's a lot of book that's not that. Maybe it's more like half. But the future thing specifically ties into the present. Like the Elemist is showing them the future so that they can glean something from it. And it's not even like some emotional thing. It's very specifically like if I'll show you the future so you're terrified, but secretly he wants them to figure out that the EGS tower has the Kandrona because he's cheating, right? So there's like a
mm,
whole tie-in with the present. This book, pretty much the entire thing is going to be set in the future, and the tie-ins with the present are going to be much more thematic. So I
mm,
mean that's the immediate like direct comparison here is that they're doing this in a different way. And I got to say, that does mean that for me, the thematic tie ins kind of have to be a lot stronger. Like I have to look at this less as like oh, there's some weird shenanigans happening, and more as a, like, this is a what if story that sheds light on the characters. So that is going to be like important to me. Uh,
yeah, right. It
mhm.
has, it'll have, it's about character development, even if the plot doesn't progress. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, or like even if the characters don't develop, like it develops the character in your mind. You know what I mean? Like this is like a what if story, right? Like I don't mind being like, what if you do a side story? It's not canon. What if you know? I don't fucking know. You've read more comics than me, right? Like these kinds of stories.
Yeah. Well,
What if Batman's parents never got
right,
murdered or something kind of thing?
right. Sure,
Um,
sure.
that can still be an interesting insight into Bruce Wayne, even if it doesn't matter. Um, but because this isn't going to really tie back into the present, I kind of have to look at it in that way.
Yeah, yeah. I was, you bring up Batman because I was reading this and thinking, oh, this is kind of like Batman Beyond.
Okay,
I
okay.
I also thought of it as sort of the Legend of Korra to the Last Airbender.
Hmm.
But I'm realizing now, just occurred to me as we're talking, what this really is Samurai Jack.
Oh shit! Yeah,
Yeah,
Jake's got to get back to the past so that he can not. Yeah, and
yeah.
then he
So that's
also
pretty
kind of
good.
like doesn't really like in the original series.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's pretty good.
it is
Uh,
pretty good.
okay, so I mean, Jake is 25. I mean, we can talk, and we will talk for a long time, I'm sure, over the course of the episode about the ramifications and the how what we think works about the future of the world and all this shit. We're going
Mhm.
to talk about that, but I guess like we can get into the actual content of it now that that's out of the way.
Well, I mean, before we get into like real content,
Okay.
because if you're going to say anything too real, I do want to
Okay.
make sure it's been a little while since we've discussed 9/11 at length.
I mean, look, that will be in the content, but sure, yeah, we can talk about 9/11.
Oh, okay, okay. If as long as that's going to be in the content, I just didn't want
I
to move on
actually
to something.
I
Yeah.
wasn't totally sure. I don't know exactly how far we're going. Does is I guess is make it clear that this is New York at this point?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we can bleed a little bit over into the next section too if you want. But yeah, at this point, yeah, when he looks out the window and sees bug fighters and like fighters just kind of flying around together, he sees them flying around the World Trade Center, and so immediately he's like, I'm in future New York City.
Right. Future New York, which I don't know why. I don't know what this note means that I wrote one day ago. Uh, or actually, yeah, I wrote this is future New York, and in parentheses I wrote cross that one off the list. By the way, I don't know what did I mean by that.
Presumably you're talking about all the like 9/11 and killing Hitler and like things that are like crazy shit, but I don't know.
I just mean like that's a trope, like future New York, or
Futurama?
I don't know
They
what I
did a
meant.
future. I don't know what you meant either.
I don't know. I don't know what I meant. I'm sure it was funny. My next note was Twin Towers take a drink. They mentioned the Twin Towers.
They sure do. Actually, I have a little note here from Seropedia.
Mm.
The audiobook edition begins with a content guidance advising of the book's original publication in relation to the 9/11 attacks.
Wow. They just mentioned the Twin Towers. It's not like
It's not like they flew a plane into him like in book 37.
yeah, no content warning for that one. Yeah, I mean, this was still a year and a half before 9/11, so I mean, they got in there in time. They did what they
Yeah.
could. It's
Yeah.
funny to think back. It's I always think 9/11's funny, but like we can. You can say like, oh wow, we're bringing up the Twin Towers right before 9/11, but it's like, well, no, that's just such a staple of New York. It feels ridiculous to even have to
Yeah.
say this, but for Tim Zoomer and the like, who may not realize, it's like for decades, anytime you showed or referenced New York, the World Trade Center was in there. It's not
Yeah, it
like
sounds it's a lot less ominous if you're like, "Oh, I can't believe you mentioned New York City in your work."
right. Yeah, it's just how it was. But anyway, that is all that stuff. It's interesting, and oh, I know why I wrote crossed out off the list. I was saying you cross that off now. A state we can confirm that the Animorphs do not live in, because otherwise he wouldn't be remarking upon it.
Now, it is notable at some point around, I think it might be a little bit later, but at some point he does say he was on a class trip to New York City once. And I think
Oh, that's
way earlier
crazy.
in the series they talked about a class trip to DC too. And like it is I'm just gonna say it, they are in California. What the fuck is this class trip?
Well, here's
That they're
the
taking
headcanon.
multiple cross-country flights.
Maybe Jake didn't grow up in California. Maybe they moved from the East Coast
Mm,
when he was a kid. That makes
that
sense.
could be. Yeah, that does make sense.
I don't know if it was
For
Jake for the
yeah.
DC trip too, but
For those of you who live in Europe, right? Like this is the equivalent of like growing up in Portugal and being like, yeah, I visited Moscow on a class trip.
okay.
Like
For
you
those
don't
of
even
us,
understand.
if I'm in the U.S., can you explain that one for me?
Yeah, the explanation is that everything in Europe is tiny, so they think that the countries are the size of states.
Those fucking idiots. Okay.
Anyway,
I have to ask: Am I dumb? Or
yeah, yes.
hold
But
on,
what's the question?
hold on. Or is it sometimes impossible to envision things as they are described in Animorphs books? Let me read this out loud.
I
This
think it's
passage
both.
here.
Yeah, go for it.
I stood up and walked toward a purple kidney-shaped pedestal. The top slid off to reveal a golden cone. It was decorated, I guess, with a border of luminescent tubing. If someone out there listened to that for the first time and has a clear picture of what the fuck that is in their head, congratulations, you're Ellen Jarrow. Because what the fuck? I read that like 10 times. Like, what? It's kidney shaped. What is that even? What the fuck shape even is a kidney? Like, I guess like a kidney shaped pool. But like, it's upright? Is it flat? Is it like 3D? Is it tall? Is it short? It's a pedestal. What's the cone? The top slides off and there's a cone in the top? What do you mean?
The kidney shape I get. Kidney shaped pedestal is a little bit weird. The only way I can make that work is to imagine something kind of like the bean in Chicago. And then like the
Right?
top slides off, but the top's not flat, so I guess there's a curved panel and then
Or
there's
is
a
it
cone in it. The
is
cone is bordered with a luminescent tubing. I don't know what the border of a cone is. Is it the base of the cone? Or does it run across the top like in a triangle?
or just like the edges of it? The-
Well, what's
or-
the edge of a
oh,
cone if it's not the
sorry, yeah.
base?
I was thinking of a pyramid, but you're right. It's a cone.
Yeah, that's if it were a pyramid, it would make some sense, maybe.
It's just the fucking what the fuck is this? No editor read that section, and then it turns out it's a fucking toilet joke. Is what this is. It's a toilet.
Yeah, that's what the and that's okay. How the fuck does this toilet work?
Great
I can
question.
barely even picture what it looks like, and everything I'm picturing does not look like a comfortable toilet.
Well, that's the future hell that the Yerks have in store for us. No, I bet even the Yerks have bidets though. I bet the infrastructure runs better with the Yerks in charge. The trains run on time, I bet.
Now that you've been in Japan,
Yeah, what
you
can I
realize
say?
how horrible here it is in America. Yeah.
I get it. I get it. Also, don't they say the? Nah, I don't know. They don't say anything. Forget it. Anyway, that I didn't like that part, but the rest of it was fine.
Okay. Okay. Now I think you wanted to talk about some like content in this section.
No, well, here's
Maybe
the thing.
Jake being 25 or something.
I guess our definitions of content are different because that was kind of what I meant. Is all the things I just said.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I
I'm
meant,
trying
like,
to be
I
generous
guess
with.
content wasn't the right word. I meant more like the nitty gritty details as
Yeah.
opposed to the broad strokes.
I guess the problem is that the internet has brainwashed me into thinking that content means art when a better definition would be bullshit.
This
that doesn't matter.
podcast?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is content for sure. We are content
Why are
creators.
you listening to this?
We're creating content for you. Pretty
All
good.
right. So Jake, he's taken stock of his situation. He's in the future. The door opens and the room, I guess, like kicks Jake out because he's being lazy. I don't know. But he goes out with these hordes of other people. They're all in jumpsuits. He's like, oh, let me just see what's up. I probably shouldn't go running around like, oh, the Yerks are here. So on the train, someone starts talking to him and calls him ESSEC 241275 and implies that he is some kind of rocket scientist. So it seems like Jake is supposed to be infested and a rocket scientist and everyone's Yerks or something. Everyone's getting off the train at a point that stops, and Jake's like, no, I gotta go to the clinic because I'm having host rebellion problem. So he heads off on his own to go look for the others and see are any of the other Animorphs here in the future with him. As he's out here, he stumbles into like a hunting party of Taxons, fighting a red-tailed hawk. He makes a run for it, and he ends up in an encampment in the subway and sees these like unfit host refugees that are who the Taxons are hunting. I guess it's like a homeless tunnel people camp. He runs away from there, and he runs into these Orf, who are Yerk enforcer species. They are like kind of humanoid, except that they have 3 legs instead of 2, and they have very long necks and only 1 eye, which is like a giant glowing eye with a pupil that orbits the eye in circles. The Orf are entirely clear except for their internal organs, which are visible, and they talk like their whole they like slur their whole sentences together into like one big long word. And these Orf are gonna arrest Jake for, I guess, not being where he's supposed to be or something, when all of a sudden there's a giant explosion that goes off. Okay, so Jake's a bunch of stuff happened. Jake
I
ran
feel like
around
you
the
just
future.
covered a lot of ground.
I did, but like honestly, listen, he ran around the future. We saw a bunch of set pieces. We're about to get into the plot here, but like let's just talk about all the different bits of the future.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of There's some bits in there. There's some bits.
A lot of bits. Yeah, a lot of bits.
I'll just tell you my general feelings at this point reading.
Yeah.
Which I probably won't be a surprise to you or the listener if they truly love me as a parasocial friend.
Yeah. Okay.
That I was digging it. This is I've every time one of these types of things happens, removing this right now from the context of that we just did it,
Hmm.
this is the kind of thing that I really love. I love it I love it when Star Trek does it. I love it when Buffy does it. I love it when any of these shows do it. I love alternate universes, specifically with characters that we are familiar with. I always think it's a lot of fun to see, okay, what happens when you fuck with something, or it's this happens, or they're older now, it's the future, it's the past, what's changed, what's different, what's going to
Hmm.
happen. That kind of stuff is always very fun to me. So I did really like all these details. I thought it was, at this point in the
Hmm.
book, may or may not change, but I was, as a first time reader, I was along for this ride. I was worried, however, that I didn't know if it was going to pay off in the end,
Hmm.
and I'll save that for the end. But I was liking the book. I mean, this is the kind of shit I like.
Hmm. Yeah, I do think that even though I'm talking about him running from taxons and going from place to place, there are a lot of areas in here that are a little bit slower. They're a little more reminiscent of you know, maybe the part where they're exploring the Nartek thing before they actually meet them, but maybe
I
less
got
stupid.
flashes of I was thinking of the Howler book, like when they go to the Iskort planet.
Yeah, yeah. That as well. Also, the bits where they're just exploring like the Taxon tunnels and the burnt out city in book 7 before they, like
Mm.
it's a lot. It's a lot more environmental. And I do think it does a pretty good job of that. I think that that part can drag a little bit if you're like, okay, I already kind of know where the story is and what this means, and I kind of just want you to get to it. But I think it works well if you're willing to just kind of sit back and be like, yeah, 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 this is just here to give you a vibe.
I mean, literally, last book I said I would just read like another half of a Megamorph size book where they're just hanging out
Hmm.
in the changed past without progressing the plot. So like
Yeah.
for personally, I'm totally down for that. I think that is a lot of fun, as long as they are doing what I think they do here, which is introducing all these weird wrinkles and strange ideas and the orphs, whatever the
Hmm.
fuck.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I did like better in the Megamorphs is that in that one, you were talking about characters hanging out because you've got all the Animorphs here. Here, it's more just like
Mm,
Jake walking around taking it in. So
yeah.
it's a lot less of the character interactions and a lot more just like what is it like, which isn't bad necessarily, but it's not as much of what I would hope for.
Yeah, there's more of a mystery aspect because you're still wondering what is going on. In Megamorphs,
Hmm.
there's not really a mystery. You know exactly what's going on.
Hmm.
Um, so I like that, but this is definitely a Jake ass book. I mean, the other Animorphs will show up, but it's
Hmm.
like, not, I mean, even for a POV book, it's very, very Jake centric. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you're
Yeah.
not into the Jake of it all, that could also be disappointing.
Yeah, and I think the Jake of it all is fine here. I think we're a far cry from the days where Jake just was not being written. I think
Hmm.
Jake books are fine now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree.
and even good. Yeah.
I did also think, reading all these descriptions, I was kind of like, it almost read like the writer was just trying to convince us that she's been to New York City, or that she has been there and she's really proud of it. There's a lot of like, down by the Chrysler building, and you got to take the subway, and this is the line to take. It's like, okay. I mean, she didn't really say that, but it was a
Yeah.
little. I get it. I get it. You've been to New York.
And this is just because you are close enough to New York City that you can go there regularly if you want. So you're just like, get over yourself, bitch.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I wouldn't use a gendered slur
Oh yeah, never. I've never heard you do that.
unless I added or bastard. Then I might, to
That I've
be
heard you do.
gender neutral. Tobias, when we okay, like, I don't know. I guess I should have said Tobias. It's just a random red-tailed hawk. We don't
Yeah, it's
know,
just a random red-tailed hawk. We don't actually interact with it.
but they describe him as being old too.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have like gray feathers or something?
Yeah, I don't quite know what he would look like being old. Although I do think that at some point in this book, I don't remember if it's here or later, Jake does like mention that if he's 10 years older, the bird red-tailed hawk lifespan would mean
Yeah, yeah.
Tobias might be dead by now, which like I don't know the red-tailed hawk lifespan. I don't know if that's accurate, but like I think we have brought this up before, and it is reasonable to think about that. Like, yeah, man, if Tobias is gonna go off and be a bird, what is his future looking like? If they win the war, is he gonna be dead by the time they're 25?
But can't he just morph every few years and then become a young hawk again, or does it not work that way? Am I thinking of it backwards?
Yeah, I think you're thinking of it backwards. Like you still turn back into yourself when you don't turn back into the age
Uh
you were, because that's his
uh
his that's his
yeah,
base
you're
body
right.
now.
You're right. I got it mixed up in my head.
Also, they
Yeah.
forget about that fact all the time.
I mean, yeah, that too. Yeah, so that's a weird detail that I don't know. Maybe by the end of this, I'm not sure. Still I understand what's going on with Tobias in this book, but
Mhm.
oh yeah. I mean, there's some weird shit going on with Tobias
Yeah,
later. What?
yeah. Some weird shit's gonna happen in this book. It gets weirder, and it doesn't necessarily make sense.
Oh yeah, let's get excited. Then we discover these, as I call them, Morlocks.
The Morlocks. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about like the mole people under like New York City or in the Vegas tunnels or whatever.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it
yeah,
immediate.
yeah,
My immediate thought is just like, oh yeah, actual subway homeless encampment. But they are
yeah.
kind of more locky.
Oh, you're not talking about like mole people. You're talking about like real people,
Yeah, I'm talking about like real people.
because there are mole people also,
Okay, okay.
like
Well,
half
so
half
then
human,
those
half
would be
mole.
real people.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they're real. I'm just trying to differentiate because it
Okay.
doesn't sound like you are aware of, or maybe you don't believe in them,
Hmm. Hmm.
but they're there.
Okay.
Yeah, and at first we meet this gang that I assumed are escaped hosts, but it turns out, am I right on this? They're just shitty Yerks,
No, I think these
or am I wrong?
people are escaped hosts.
I
My
thought they
my
make a reference. Doesn't one of them um like their body, like they've been basically rejected by the Yerks because they're like they're missing a limb, or
yeah.
they have some kind of thing that impacts their ability to be working fighting machines.
Yeah.
So I guess they're not going to Kandrona pools or whatever. So I guess they must be free.
Yeah, I mean my what I inferred here was that these were like they say there's like a whole thing about the High Council Division for the Relocation of Unfit and Insurrectionist Hosts.
Mm.
So I was assuming, and yeah, there's like a special forces Taxons to get them. My assumption was that these were hosts who, like in theory, are supposed to be being destroyed because they are undesirable, but
Mm.
the Yerks don't care that much about them. So like they have the special forces Taxons to go out and eat them if they find them, but the Orf, for example, are just like, I don't give a shit. Just go live in the tunnels or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Live in the
I don't
tunnels.
know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, why not? How do you feel about the Taxons in this book? You liking them?
Snitwana.
Hmm. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, that was something one of the Taxons said.
Okay. So you're rooting for them as these hordes of mindless beasts storm through the tunnels, devouring everything in their path.
Well, those are controlled by Yerks.
I don't know. I think that
Those
the
these
Yerks
ones are.
might be controlled by the Taxons.
These ones are. They've got yeah.
They've got Yerks in them. I
They've got
just don't.
Dracon beams and
I
stuff.
just don't know that the Yerks are necessarily fully in charge.
I just think that the Taxons, listen, just even if they do bad things, it doesn't mean that they aren't deserving of dignity. Um,
Hmm. That feels like a cry for help.
I mean, so actually, looping back on this encampment here, I gotta say, like, I think as a kid, I just didn't notice it, but I don't really love it. Here,
Okay.
uh, like from like a why is this here standpoint, not from like a within the narrative standpoint, because like this encampment exists for like half a chapter, right? Jake comes here and leaves. You know, you might think, oh, he's going to come here and he's going to meet up with some of these guys and they're going to go do. No, these guys are just here as a set piece, right? They're just kind of here to
Mm.
say, like, look at how bad and cruel the Yerks are. Isn't it? Isn't it terrible what they do to people who are missing their tail blades or whatever? Um, and it gives me kind of like misery porn, like, look at how gross and bad and sad it is for homeless people. Aren't Isn't our society bad? Aren't you glad like that you're not like them kind of shit? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It feels like you're just putting this here to elicit a response and then you're not actually going to deal with it or do anything. And that would be fine if it was entirely fictional, but it feels a little bit too close to actual, like, encampments and the way that our media likes to actually portray those things. I don't know.
Mm.
It felt a little grosser to me.
You sound kind of like you're being a snowflake, kind of like a
Hmm.
liberal, kind of a pussy.
Well, if I were a liberal, I'd be all in favor of this.
Well, sure, but
I'd be like, I would spend all my time like, oh, the poor homeless people. You have to vote Democrat because otherwise, the poor homeless people. And
it'd be
then you
weird if
wouldn't
they
do
were
anything about it.
rich homeless people.
That's true.
Unhoused, by the way, we say now.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I see how that could be a danger, but I don't, it doesn't come across to me that way. Like, it makes sense in context of a dystopian future that
Hmm.
this would exist. It doesn't seem strange to me. Like, the Yerks would force these people out, and I guess they could. I do agree. Maybe they should come back. I mean, there it seems like there's a perfect opportunity in the plot for them to be involved later. That
Hmm.
which and maybe they, yeah, I guess they're not. There's like another kind of organization we meet that's not this one, I guess.
Yeah.
It seems like they should just be part of that too, maybe.
Yeah,
Uh
I kind of wish that either they like mentioned this existed, but then didn't really put Jake down here to be all like, look at how sad and depressed and miserable and smelly and awful they all were, or that they had put him down here and been all like, we act in solidarity with these people and they are actually helping us and there's an organization and they're doing something relevant, as opposed to just like they're here to make you feel a certain way about the Yerks, but like, they're just here to do that, and then you can forget about them now.
yeah, they're there to set the stage more, so to really drive home how horrible this future is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, it's not, because this is entirely fictional. It's not actually a problem. It's just that like this kind of rhetoric is used in real life too, and it rubs me the wrong way.
I get it. It's a sensitive issue for you since you are a dirty, smelly, hobo bum kind of a man.
Yeah, yeah. Right. No, exactly. You got it.
I get it. Whereas for me, I'm sort of like an upper crust,
Uh huh.
very hygienic and classy, like polite, courteous, well mannered.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sort of a like I'm in with the elite of society. I go to a lot of nice parties.
Yeah. Exactly. You
We
got
come
it.
from two different worlds. That's kind of why this podcast works, is because it's sort of a
Yeah.
trading places type situation.
You got soft hands.
It's like Caddyshack. It's the snobs and the slobs, and you're both, buddy.
uh,
I'm the gopher. Anyway, what the fuck am I talking about? Is it a gopher? It's a gopher, right? It's not like a
yeah.
woodchuck or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
something.
Because the joke where he's like, kill all the gophers. And they're like, isn't that illegal or whatever?
Let's watch Caddyshack for the Patreon.
Yeah,
That'll be fun.
you know what? Fuck this book. This is a Caddyshack
There's an animal in
pod
it.
now. Yeah, that's right.
Um. Anyway, but anyway, okay. So fair enough. All right, fine. That's been said. How about these the orphs?
The Orphs.
I
Okay, so
yeah.
well, okay, yeah, I was gonna say, here's the thing about the Orphs is that I remember these Orphs like very distinctly, and I never remember what the hell book they're from. Like even as a little kid, I would be like, "Oh yeah, there's those guys who are like clear, except you can see their organs or something," and I might not remember what they're called, but like every time I'm in between my rereads, I'll be like, "Yeah, there were those clear guys." Um, and then it's always like, yeah, when did they show up? I don't know. Later, probably post book 30 at some point.
Yeah, well, here they
But it
are.
turns out it turns out, as far as I'm aware, they're only in this alternate future. I don't even know if the Orph are like actually real, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I guess the implication is that the Yeerks are so successful with their takeover that they have extended their reach. It makes sense that they
Hmm.
would go out to other planets and they wouldn't just have the same hosts we've already seen.
Yeah.
And I guess they've decided that their role is the enforcement, is the cops of this Earth.
Yeah.
Uh,
They're like,
okay.
they're like Hork-Bajir, but maybe not quite as good, but there's a lot more of them, so.
They're weird. I don't know that I'm 100% picturing them again the way that they want me to.
That's probably right.
They have
You're
one big eye in their. I'm thinking kind of like I believe his name is Blob from X-Men, not the Blob. Maybe not Blob. What the fuck's his name? There's a thing in X-Men that's like a translucent weird blob guy who like you can see his muscles and stuff.
Hmm. Can't quite remember this guy, but
I don't know
that's
why am
probably
I.
about right.
Yeah, his name's not Blob. Transparent
But it's got like
guy.
the Orph here. They got like really long necks and then one giant eye,
Yeah. Oh,
like a purple people eater.
sorry, his
They
name.
got one long neck and one big eye.
Thank you. The name of the character I was thinking of is, in fact, Glob.
Okay.
So you can see why I was confused.
Yes, I can see.
Anyway, but yeah, it's like they don't really. They do kind of pay off in the end, actually, or there is sort of a payoff for what they are and why they are the way they are. So I
Yeah,
like them. They're kind. It's a
yeah.
weird, it's a Merpatron, whatever the fuck those things are called. It's a
Mortron,
yeah. It's one of those
Mortron.
weirdos. I like them. I like having a weirdo in there.
Yeah, it's good. They should put more weirdos in the regular timeline too. Like, we've seen the same aliens over and over, and it shouldn't just be like the Garrotron or whatever, where it's like one time one guy gets the crazy
One
host that
time,
can.
one guy.
There you go. Yeah, no,
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
just be like put in some guys who are like, yeah, these guys are also pretty good. They're not even as good as Hork-Bajir, but they're better than humans or something. There's like some of them running around now because like that would be cool.
Yeah, yeah. It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And we find out Jake's job here too a little bit, or they allude to
Yeah,
it.
he's like a rocket scientist of some kind. I don't remember exactly what they say, but
It sounds to me like he's kind of a Slarta Bartfast. At least that's what
I feel like he's not quite on that level.
I think. I guess this is just what I wrote down. Well, because they call him a planetary engineer.
Yeah, I mean, like he is doing something akin to like weird terraforming, but yeah, maybe he's a bit slartish.
Yeah, he's a
I'm
Slarta Bart slow.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to clarify what we're talking about for anyone who doesn't know what the fuck all these
Yeah,
syllables we're throwing out here are.
we don't need to. We don't need to. And now,
Yeah.
and then there is kind of another 9/11 here. And
Oh,
maybe this is what the warning was about, because
mm,
there is like a giant explosion that happens in New York City and like
yeah,
debris falling and shit.
that's true. Yeah, there is a bombing. It is
They
specifically, it's actually a terrorist bombing.
Yeah, so maybe that's more than the just mentioning of the Twin Towers. They also, at some
That
point, I
could
think
be.
it was earlier, they did use the phrase ground zero. I forget what for.
I didn't even notice that.
So,
Yeah,
there's something there.
yeah, there is something there. This is also the part somewhere in here is where he like explicitly says the age 25.
Mm.
Um, Now he doesn't. I remember this as the book where he's 25 and it's 10 years later, thus saying that he is 15 or something in the regular timeline
Oh,
at this point in
yeah.
the books. But coming in here, it seems like he's saying when I actually read the sentences out, it seemed like he was saying, like, I'm about 25-ish, and it's about 10 years later-ish. So maybe you could take that with a grain of salt, but I'm still just gonna go with the he's 15 in the regular books at this point.
Yeah, I think we can go with that. Sure.
Yeah, I think that is
All I know
reasonable.
is he's 18 now. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? I'm just
On
saying.
that note,
I'm
it
just
is kind of
saying.
funny because you read this as a kid. I'm gonna
Mhm.
move on. When you read this as a
I
kid,
can't say
you're
something
like, wow,
else.
he's like 25. He's so old at 25, man. And now I'm 35, and I'm like, man, he's still such a baby.
I was just talking about this the other night. How, especially
I
with
don't know that you
like
should be saying this.
the media, just hear me out.
You better
Especially
not be
with
about to say me too.
the media that we grew up with.
Okay.
I always think about the video game Zelda Ocarina of Time, in
Mhm.
which, I mean, I think about it all the time for many reasons, but in that game, Link becomes you start as a kid and then you go travel through time and become what is commonly referred to. I'm not sure if it's in the game, but certainly in the official player's guides and other materials, he's referred to as Adult Link.
Mhm.
And Adult Link is 17. That's how old he is. And I also feel like a lot of anime, like
Yes.
the
Yes.
the adult characters are like usually 17. That's
Yes.
usually the
Yeah.
if you're 25, you're an old man in an
Yeah.
anime.
I mean, there's two reasons for that. Number one is that in Japan, it is considered uncouth to have a personality once you graduate high school and enter college or the workforce. Like, the only time you are allowed to express individuality is when you're a child because it's not really socially acceptable for adults. So they don't tell stories about adults. And the
Yeah,
second
yeah.
one is that everyone over there is a pedophile.
Right. Over
Yeah,
there.
that over
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Well, over if you're an anime fan over here, then I also know something about you over here as well. But that would be the reason.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why I liked anime when I was a child, and when I became an adult, I realized that I hated it, and that's
And then
because it no longer was acceptable to be attracted to children when I became an adult.
that's when eight like when you become an adult legally, or what is that cutoff?
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Just for listeners in case they don't know.
Uh-huh.
We'll talk
I'm
about it. We'll
just
talk about
saying,
it
if you're a
after.
listener and you're an anime fan, and there's probably a pretty large overlap between anime fans and Animorphs fans, I'm not going to lie. I just have opinions on you. I just think you should know.
Animorphs. We've done that before.
I think we have, yeah.
But there is okay. Moving off of the
Yeah,
Japan
what
of
are
it
we
all,
fucking talking about
there
here?
is also a thing I think where even in live action media, most high schoolers in movies and TV are played by 25-year-olds.
Hmm.
So I feel like when I was a kid, I always thought like I would watch Buffy or even like Power Rangers or something, and I would think, wow, like those are adults. Like those people have their lives together. Those
Hmm.
are independent fucking geniuses of the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said, now it's like 17 is like what a that's a
Yeah.
child. You're a baby. You're
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. I mean, that is even more so than like 25, because like 17 is like an actual child. 25 is like, no, you're still a baby, but like you're not a fucking literal child.
34 divided by 2 plus 7. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just saying this book kind of a gift for fanfic writers. That's all. Kind of a gift.
Kind of a gift. Maybe, yeah. Do you want to maybe move on from
I'd
here?
love to. I'd love to.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about this, because now that this bombing has happened, we can start getting into like the plot of what's going on in the future. Um but yeah, so we're in the aftermath of this bombing. Shit's going crazy. People are running everywhere, and Jake runs into a rather familiar woman. It's Cassie as an adult.
Oh,
Wow! So Jake follows her, and also a bunch of Taxons are after her, and she has like a Dracon fight with them. And she and Jake, they beat the Taxons, and they have like a whole conversation, right? And Jake's kind of trying to talk to her as if maybe she's from the past too, but no, she's not. This is just grown-up Cassie in the future dystopia. Um, so Cassie here is with the EF, or the Evolutionist Front, which is a Yerk terrorist group that wants to like become symbiotic with their hosts. So Cassie is a controller. She has a Yerk named Nis, and she and Nis cooperate and fight. And she is the one who did this bombing, right? She's responsible for the bombing. Um, she tells us a bit about what happened and how things got to this point, which was that, in the past, Tom did figure things out. Remember how Tom was suspicious at the beginning? Um, and he got too suspicious, and
Remember that
he
time Tom was suspicious of Jake?
and he infested Jake, and using Jake, they captured Marco and Cassie and Axe, and Tobias escaped, but Rachel was killed. So now time skip 10 years, Axe helped them take the Andalites. Visser 3 is the Emperor, and Marco is Visser 2 and is in charge of Earth. Once Cassie's talking to Jake, and once she realizes what Jake's job is, that he's a Slarta Bartfast type, Cassie is like, "Oh, you got to help us for our with our EF terrorist activities, because the Yerks want to turn the moon into a Kandrona, right? And if they do that, then they'll never have to use their portable Kandronas again. They won't be vulnerable. So we want you to go in there and use your position at your job to sabotage it and instead blow up the moon. And when you do that, the debris will like rain down and cause like an apocalyptic event. And the EF can exploit that to like fuck up the Yerk status quo here." All right.
Yeah.
So this is the new Cassie.
Meet the new Cassie, just like the old Cassie. But actually, she's pretty different.
She's pretty different. She's the old and jaded, destructive terrorist Cassie.
I mean, of course we love this Cassie, right? We love this Cassie.
Yeah, I do love this Cassie. This Cassie is good. This Cassie is by far my favorite part of the book. I think one of the weakest elements of the book going forward from here is that there are going to be points where they're trying to do other things and it muddles the Cassie bits a bit, because this Cassie part is like a great emotional hook, right?
Every time Cassie's not on screen, one of the characters should be asking, "Where's Cassie?"
Right, exactly.
Yeah, she doesn't take any shit. She does what needs to be done. She's kind of like, going back to a previous reference. I feel like this is Toph in her transformation to Legend of Korra, when it's like she grows up to be this kind of like no nonsense broad,
Now,
right?
I guess to be fair, I've only watched the first season of Korra, so I think I missed some of the Toph in that.
Well, I mean, and also,
but also Toph was kind of a no nonsense broad when she was a kid too. Unlike
yes,
Cassie.
That's true. That is true. For Cassie, this is a real 180.
Yes.
And I mean, there's a lot we could probably talk for a long time about that, her character shift here. For one thing, Jake isn't really sure how much of this is Cassie versus how much of it is the Yerk. That's worth questioning. And also I feel like, and maybe this is too soon, maybe we wait to get into this, but the book, I feel like, is a little bit positioning itself as saying that this isn't good, that we shouldn't be rooting for this version of Cassie.
Yeah. I have a whole rant about that later. There's like two parts of this that I have a lot of notes for, and one is right here and one is later. And believe it or not, the stuff that we talked for an hour and a half bullshit about is the stuff I have less to say about. Oh God!
Don't worry, I got plenty. I brought a lot.
All right, good. Yeah, no.
So then maybe we should save that for because that's more about the ending. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. But I think what really works about this Cassie is that I feel like at no point do you ever feel like, until this point in the series, that you don't really feel that Cassie's like sense of morals and goodness, and in some sense her soul, is like at stake, right? Like Like, you look at Rachel and you're like, is she going to become just a psychopath berserker with nothing of herself left? Maybe. Is Tobias just going to be a bird? Maybe. What's going to happen to Marco when he follows that bright, clear line and kills his mom? Is he still even going to be Marco? But with Cassie, it's always like, Cassie is torn because she can't take the killing, but she's got to do the killing. And what that means is there's a very real risk that she leaves, right? When she had her crisis in book 19, she was like, the way that it's solved is that I leave. It's not that I lean into the killing and just forsake the it's not, I can't handle it part, right? I would forsake the necessary killing to to just live this more moral life even if it led to worse outcomes. That's always kind of what you think. At no point do you think there's a risk that Cassie is going to become the monster, right? Cassie says in
Mhm.
19, I don't want to be Rachel, and you never think she's going to be Rachel. And so this book is the first time the series kind of comes to you and posits, even though this is some weird alternate future, even though it's probably not canon, have you ever considered that maybe Cassie could actually turn into Rachel? And I think that's great.
Yeah, I might almost add to that or reframe it a little bit in that
Yeah,
I feel
sure.
like Cassie, I agree with you from our perspective,
Uh-huh.
but I feel like maybe Cassie's real fear is not that she'll become a monster, it's that she already is a monster. That
Hmm.
the for her the definition of monster is what she already is doing.
Hmm.
Like she's already her to Rachel for her. Like her barometer her is different.
Yeah.
Her level of her threshold that needs to be met to be a bad person is much lower than Rachel's.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would agree with you completely on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
That
it's yeah,
that's how she feels about it. But like how does she resolve the hypocrisy? Like what is she
the
gonna do
hypocrisy.
if she can't handle the being both at the same time? And you never think that it's gonna be that she just becomes a, you know, unapologetic, I kill and that's what I do. And I don't
It's
worry about the consequences because you can't.
it's fascinating. I don't know if they really she doesn't does she really tell you how this I mean she says they all got taken, but did
Mhm.
she just like how did she become this kind of freedom fighter? I don't remember if she goes into specifics on that. Does she?
Yeah, not really. It seems like part of how she did it though is just that because the evolutionist front is different in that they're all Yerks, right? Like they're all Yerks who cooperate with their hosts. Like it feels to me like this is something like some Yerks felt bad about it and made pacts with their hosts. And at some point, the idea of like maybe being more symbiotic showed up. And that to me kind of feels like, oh, it would not shock me to learn. It's not in the text, but it would not shock me to learn that Cassie like kickstarted this whole thing where she was like, I was the first person to make a pact because I already did it with Aftran. I suggested the symbiosis thing because I already saw it with the escort. Like that's kind of built into here, and it would
Yeah.
make sense from a character progression.
And that is to me the part of this that makes the most sense. You
Hmm.
could kind of be you can kind of question, oh man, what like would Cassie really turn to all this violence and stuff? But it makes sense that she would ally herself with a Yerk because in a way that is her. She still is showing compassion more than other people in her own
Yeah,
way. Like she's still siding with a quote unquote enemy. So
yeah.
and it makes perfect sense with what we saw with her and Aftran. So it totally works from that perspective.
Yeah, and as we will talk about later, I do, I kind of do reject the idea that like, oh well, but you're a terrorist, so you're doing the bad.
Yes, we'll
No,
get
no,
there.
if you're fighting anyway, whatever. The point,
I know we'll
but
get there.
we will, but yeah, but so Cassie is doing this, but I think it also resonates well because it's not just me saying this; it is also kind of Jake coming to terms with this because Jake, we set up at the beginning of the book that Cassie is struggling because she has to kill all of these Yerk controllers in order to save people. That's the right thing to do. But that means she has to kill. and her conscience is destroying her, and she can't emotionally handle it, and Jake does not have the emotional bandwidth for that. And so now Jake is seeing, what if she like became this person who didn't have that conundrum anymore? What if she like was forced into
Yeah.
that situation so many times that she just no longer had that crisis of conscience, that she was like, yeah, you got to kill. That's what you got to do. And that to Jake is a loss, right? Because he loves Cassie and he loves that aspect
Right.
of Cassie. And so you can sort of see that this emotional through line of like, oh, maybe I thought it was okay not to be there because I didn't have the space for it. And of course, Cassie's going to make it, she's going to be fine, but if Jake has to come to a realization that maybe it's not going to be fine, right? It's meaningful, it's powerful, it works.
Yeah, well, there's another angle to all of this, which I think we've mentioned a couple times in passing on the show, which is that you take for granted sometimes, at least I do, that these characters in the main series are young teenagers.
Hmm.
And most people when they are 14 are not the same people that they are at 16, let alone 25.
Yeah.
You take it for granted. You read the series like, well, of course that's who Cassie is. That's who Jake is. But nobody in real life would say about their 13-year-old self. Yeah, of course that's who I am, and
Yeah.
always I loved dinosaurs, so now I'm a paleontologist. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so like basically Jake is the uncanny valley here. This is not the Cassie he knows. She
Hmm.
aged 10 years and he didn't. They're literally two completely different, not literally, but for all intents and purposes, they're two completely different people. It's a wild thing to reckon with. It's a very, I mean, you could like, this could be an entire sci-fi movie premise or book, that just that
Hmm.
idea of like about a time travel relationship in that way, that I feel like I don't know that I can think of too many things that explore something like that in that way.
Yeah. I mean, would you say that it's interesting?
You know something? I would. Oh, something else I want to say. I
Yeah.
forgot to say this before, but this whole book is pretty Orwellian.
Yeah, I did bring up 1984 already once.
Right, but I don't know if you said it was Orwellian.
No, I didn't say Orwellian.
Because I think that probably takes place in like, it should be like 2010 or so not 1984.
Right. No, that's true.
Something else we learn about the evolution front, you mentioned it,
Hmm.
that they want to, their goal is to use artificially created symbiotes instead of human hosts.
Yes, which is what the Iskort did.
Is that what the Iskort did?
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
the Iskort were voluntary hosts. Am
No,
I?
the Yort made Isk for them, for
Oh,
themselves, and then they
yeah.
also modified themselves so that they would need the Isk.
Right. But the Isk were like sentient, right? Like they,
Yeah, yeah. The Isk were
yeah.
still sentient. They
I
just
guess
they just needed each
right.
other.
So I guess this could be that. I was picturing, I don't know, like it's a robot or something.
Yeah, I mean that would also be cool. There's no reason you couldn't potentially do that too.
Yeah, why not? That
But
does seem
yeah,
like a thing you could do.
yeah. But on the other hand, you can also kind of see like if the rhetoric is specifically coming from a group of people who are cooperating with their hosts, there could be some sense of like, yeah, but like I actually like having a Yerk in my brain because they're my friend now who shares my life with me, makes me feel close when they're not controlling me. What if like it wasn't parasitic but symbiotic? Like you can sort of see why they might want that.
Yes,
I
I
don't know.
mean, I like. I mean, we saw that. We've seen a little bit of that before in these books, and I
Hmm.
think it's a cool notion. It's difficult for me personally to try to relate to it, so it's hard for me to like empathize with that. But
Hmm.
like, that's cool. I mean, they don't delve into this at all in this book, but uh, yeah, that's something too.
Yeah.
That's also interesting.
Yeah. Um I also kind of want to bring up cuz so, Jake is thinking about, we got to do the classic Jake is the leader and is his leadership good or whatever thing. So he's thinking
Mhm.
about like how his actions caused this, right? Um how his not taking Cassie seriously led to that, how he got them all captured. But there's like a whole part where he's like, I got too cocky and careless about Rachel, for example, and like, I don't know, is that what happened? Like Cassie said that Jake got captured by Tom and then Rachel died. It doesn't feel like Jake was just kind of misusing Rachel and got her killed, right? It feels like what he actually did was like he's got this whole thing here where it feels like he's sort of contemplating on like, I didn't respect my team, I was too focused on winning, but that doesn't really track with how this future came to be. Like what happened to get here was that he um Tom caught him. He wasn't sneaky enough. It's almost like it's the opposite message, right? Like you were too concerned with maintaining a personal relationship with your brother, and if you had been more focused on just winning, then he wouldn't have caught you or something. I don't know. Like it doesn't. I don't know that Jake's thought process really works here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I guess I read it as more of a like it was just a general list of regrets he had about
That's
how
fair.
he managed the Animorphs because they kind of had the whole thread about how he's just using them now and he just uses Rachel like a weapon and so
Hmm.
on. So that's sort of what it would made
Yeah.
me think of. But yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It certainly isn't really what. It's not like what happened in the beginning with that fight, or maybe it's supposed to be. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm trying to read a thematic through line on that because that's what makes this what if story like very interesting to me, as opposed to just like, oh yeah, he's in the future and it doesn't matter kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
I'm like, he's in the future. It doesn't matter.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, as far as like a what if story goes, this is cool. Like this is a fun world. I know we've already seen a dystopia in Yerk's One World, but like we get to spend a lot more time in it than we did in book 7. We get to do some like pretty dark stuff that maybe we
wasn't
didn't have time for, or hadn't established enough for in book 7. It's.
wasn't book 7 also just like a wasteland? Like it wasn't like a populated big city, was it? I don't remember.
I think, well, yeah, because I think they spawned in the suburbs or whatever, and the suburbs were all a wasteland. And then when they went into the city, there were people there.
Okay. Yeah, it didn't.
But
This just feels more. I mean, obviously, it's more developed because they spent more
yeah,
time writing about it. But
yes, it is.
also
I do think it's more of a society for sure.
a little
Yeah.
bit host esque, wouldn't you say? As in the
Mm.
host.
Yes, as a big host head, I
uh
can confirm that it's host esque.
But yeah, just with this, there's like even though the Yerks have won, quote unquote, there's still this
Hmm.
rebel force there. I guess it's a little Star Wars ish too.
A lot of things are Star Wars
Aren't
ish.
aren't they though? So what? So okay, and now we get a lot of info dump here about the other characters too. Marco is Visser 2.
Hmm.
Visser 3 is the Emperor.
Hmm.
Is Visser
How
1
is it not
still Visser
collapsed by
1?
now? If Visser 3 is the Emperor, Visser 3 probably killed her.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Uh, how is the Empire not collapsed with Visser fucking 3 running it?
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a promotion he should have gotten.
Yeah,
Also seems like Axe should be a Visser.
he
Like, why
must
the
be.
fuck is
Maybe he's just.
Marco?
Hmm?
Why Marco? What? There's no. If the Yerks have won and they have Andalites, why wouldn't every high-ranking Visser be an Andalite?
I mean, Marco can probably still morph, maybe.
Oh yeah, I guess he can morph. You're right, but still, he doesn't have a fucking tail blade in his default state. Maybe they just
Yeah.
love eating food.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also like kind of like I feel like at a certain point it can just be about flexing, right? Where it's like my host used to be an insurrectionist leader, so you can kind of be like, yeah, is that better than an Andalite warrior? Well, I mean, on Earth, the human insurrectionist guy is probably more of a flex than an Andalite warrior. On the Andalite homeworld, it wouldn't be, but I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense if that's the perspective. Yeah, if it's just, but not as it's kind of like Visser 1 already. It's like why? Why is a
Mhm.
human? It almost seems like the Yeerks should treat them with less interest. Do they care that much about their hosts, or should they be more like, I just pick whichever one's strongest. I don't give a fuck what they're thinking about. Who
Yeah, no
cares?
idea. No idea.
Guess it depends on the Yeerk.
Probably. Yeah, they don't get as much into it, but
And it is at this point of the book too, before we move on, that I'm really we've gone a long time. We're I guess about halfway or a little more than halfway through the book. Don't
oh
worry, it's
boy.
going to go faster from here, I think.
Oh
But
boy.
I'm starting to go, you know, it sure seems like this is real. There's not
Mhm.
like we haven't seen the Drode or the Elemist yet. Nothing. I mean, I guess Jake has seen some weird things, but it doesn't seem like he's in a simulation or something. So I'm really wondering, like, is this really the future, and how are they going to bring us back to the present after this? Like, what the fuck is the plan? So
Yeah. Yeah. Reasonable questions. Um
yeah.
all right. Well actually before I say the next part, I just want to before I forget briefly mention the battle at the very beginning of the book took place in the Ragson building we find out here.
Oh
So,
yeah. The Ragson building. They say that a
the
bunch.
the Ragson building. All right. Okay. So Cassie, man, we didn't even talk about this fucking plan to blow up the moon. Whatever, fuck
You
it.
mentioned it.
Cassie gave Jake a plan to blow up the moon. Jake's got to go to work and pretend though everything is normal. All right, Jake. He goes there. He's waiting, so he'll wait for a signal from the EF. He shows up at his office. There's some banter with his coworkers. He watches like a Yerk sensitivity training video or something. You know, Dilbert stuff. He's like trying to figure out how to do the office hijinks. And then all of a sudden he has this like hallucination that everyone is dead. Like all of his Yerk controller coworkers become controllers that he has killed before, and their like corpses are there. And like the zombie coworkers all start surrounding him and like chanting his name. And then it's like over and he like comes back to reality and he's like, what the fuck was that? When a bunch of Orf show up to arrest him, and his dad is with them, and his dad is a controller also leading the Orf. And Jake has like a fight with the Orf, but they knock him out and take him. All right. So the
Okay.
first thing I would like to mention about this part is that one of the controllers greets Jake by saying, "May the Kandrona shine and strengthen you."
As I wrote down in my notes, they said the thing.
I don't think they've said it since fucking book 2.
I feel like I thought there was one other instance where they said it, but I could be thinking of a fan fiction.
Yeah, or every episode of our podcast.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. That sounds right. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty good. It's canon. It's a
Pretty
thing.
good.
It's a thing. It matters.
Yeah.
Jake, it turns out, he's actually the boss of this
Yeah.
floor, this department.
So that's pretty
Pretty
cool.
cool.
He's got like pointy hair.
That's yes, pointy hair. Now this part really was making me think 1984. To be honest with you, this is very, because so much of 1984 is like him in his weird workplace and pretending to be gung ho about in 1984.
Yeah, I loved when I was a teenager. That was one of my all-time favorite books.
Me too. I like, again, more reckoning with the violence from his past.
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff is good. I was confused because it almost seemed to me like the visions come right after he starts interacting with his weird future computer. And I was trying to figure out, like, did it start running a VR simulator or something? I didn't know if that actually triggered it or if it's that. I guess it has nothing to do with it though.
Yeah, I
know.
mean, like, this is kind of a weird part for me because I look at that and it's like, oh, it was like a hallucination, but it was so real. It was like it was really happening, and it's kind of like I can, like, what are you supposed to think if you think that if you're like, okay, he's in the future. what is this? Is that real? Was it a hallucination? If it was a hallucination, why was it here? Like thematically I can talk about why it would be there, but like it's almost like a totally separate thing from like that emotional core of like him and his relationship with Cassie and the other Animorphs. And it just doesn't like it just feels weird. It's a cool scene and it's a pretty freaky scene, but it feels a bit I don't know, like why is it here to me?
Yeah, I think you're right. It does not feel congruent with Jake's
Hmm.
arc here. Do you like that word?
I did.
um, this feels more like what Cassie. I don't like. It is a cool scene, but I think I would probably, looking back on it, I think you could just excise this whole section. I think it's
Mhm.
distracting. I think it also. I guess it doesn't necessarily give the game away, but it feels like a hint that probably this something about this isn't real, which maybe that's the intention, is to be like, something's not right here. Like, this shouldn't be
Yeah.
happening if this were just real.
Yeah, and we're gonna very quickly start to see more of that, but
Yeah, but
um
it doesn't, it doesn't really feel like a Jake thing as much to be so concerned about all the deaths he's caused. I like it,
mhm.
but I don't know. It doesn't really, I don't feel like the rest of the book is real. I guess it's kind of about that, but more in regards to Cassie. I don't know.
Yeah, agreed. It doesn't really work for me there. Um Now this is the part where we kind of get the payoff for the Orf being clear.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Um
clear, like Larry Bird.
yeah,
That's
so
a Space Jam line.
as we said earlier, the Orf are clear except for all their internal organs, but it turns out those are like eye spots or whatever the equivalent. Like the whole point is that their actual internal organs are in all the clear spots, right? They're so that if a predator goes after him, they'll like try to hit him in the heart, but there's nothing there. So those parts are actually empty. So Jake like gets this inspiration and like tries punching them in like clear spots on their body, and it hurts them. Um, and I think that is the it's dumb, but that is definitely the reason that I remembered them so vividly as a kid, because as a kid I was like, "That's so cool." But
Have you seen the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes film?
I don't think I saw that one. No.
Well, in that movie, Guy Ritchie posits that Sherlock Holmes is a genius. So what that means is he's also a brilliant fighter, because uh, this is how they justify basically action scenes in a Sherlock Holmes movie. Is they like slow down time. They show you Sherlock
Oh,
Holmes's POV. Is he's so smart that he can like analyze a person's body, and he knows exactly which organ to punch or whatever to provide the maximum impact. That's what this made me think of. Is Jake's Jake's such a genius that he can discern weak points in enemies, like it's a video game boss and there's a flashing ball on his head or something. It's pretty silly, but it's whatever. It's
yeah,
fine.
it is silly, but it is a little bit more like if I were to like try to punch a person, right? I know that if I try to hit them like in the upper chest or something, it's not going to hurt as much as if I hit him in the gut, because they've got they've got a rib cage up there as opposed to just exposed liver or something.
I think
And that's because human anatomy, but you could be like, well,
right.
but Jake, these things are broadcasting a different anatomy, so you think you know where you should hit and you don't. It makes sense to me, but I do see what you're saying.
Here's what it is for me, I think, and I feel like I say this about a lot of things in these books. It seems like
Uh huh.
this should have been an earlier setup.
Yeah.
When he first meets the Orphs, he should have like elbowed one and noticed, they didn't react to it, and then it pays off here, and then I'd be like, oh, cool. But because both things happen literally right next to each other, it feels like a leap. It feels like, like all like we just invented that. I don't know.
Yeah, they did say earlier in the book, like the first time, there's like a very brief aside where Jake's like, "Oh, it makes no biological sense that they should be displaying all of their organs like that." So it feels
Not
like
good
they
enough.
Look, they tried to do it. I agree. Like they tried to like do a setup and payoff, but I don't think that it yeah, it would be better if they actually did the full thing there, as opposed to that.
Here's another question. I don't really have that much else to say about this
Hmm.
sequence, but did we get to the like he starts fighting them and stuff, right?
Yeah, he does fight him here.
This is, I mean, a question that I had been asking already at a couple of points in this book, but we can talk about it now. Is why did he not try morphing? Why wasn't that the first thing he did?
Yeah,
It takes him so long to do
it's
it.
so weird because when he does it, he's like, "Wait, I can still morph." And I do remember being like, "Well, I know we're going to start seeing some weird inconsistencies with regards to whether he can morph." Little spoilers. So I was like, "Did he try to morph earlier and couldn't?" And I like kind of scanned real quick, and I was like, "No, he definitely didn't."
Maybe it got cut. Maybe that was in there and they had to like cut a few pages or something. Cause yeah, it's very weird. It doesn't even occur to him
Yeah.
until, I don't know, a third through the book. He's like, oh, I should try morphing maybe. I don't have time right now or something. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, strange, very strange. Yeah, not too much. I do during just a couple of points during this thing they do mention Lyrans, Howlers, and David. So
Oh,
they're pulling
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah.
all the stops on mentioning all the things. Remember all the things.
I did love that. It was like a greatest hits clip
Yeah.
show.
Um
You
and
know,
I
I'm loving a David reference. I mean,
yeah.
they get the rat in there. He's biting him. It's great.
Yeah, it's good. Now how about this fucking seminar, peer communication skills, conquest through companionship.
Yeah, it's funny, I
And
guess.
there's like a scene where like an Andalite and a Hork-Bajir talk to each other, and they're like, "What was missing from that interaction that could have facilitated team compatibility?" And like, I don't know, maybe I guess the Andalite was being racist or something.
Yeah, it's like a sexual harassment
Yeah,
seminar.
that's
Here's an
stupid.
example of something that's not okay. Hey, nice tail blade, baby. I don't know.
God, every time I had to fucking when I was like working in retail with like an actual corporation and not a family owned thing, and they would be like, you have to complete these like sexual harassment things, and it would literally just be like, here's a scenario, like Bob comes up and says, "Hey Judy, nice ass." Is that A, acceptable, or B, unacceptable? And you just it was like fucking it was the dumbest shit.
Yeah. How many times, just out of curiosity, did they make you fill out those forms? Was that like a frequent thing where
No, it
you
was
were
like once a
approached?
year you like had to renew it or
Okay.
some shit. It was stupid.
Everyone or just you?
Everyone, yes.
It was everyone?
It was everyone.
And you know, like you can verify
Yes.
that. They didn't just say that to you?
Yeah, I can verify that, yes.
Okay. All right. Just
No.
asking questions. Just asking questions.
Yeah, so but yeah, it's dumb. It is funny though thinking about it because like one of the things you immediately think here is that like, oh shit, Jake's only 15. How is he going to actually do this corporate job? And then you think about it for 2 seconds and you're like, oh yeah, you know what? A 15-year-old could do a corporate job. Fucking you should fucking sit at the thing, banter with your like, what do you fucking do? Who gives a shit?
Play some solitaire. Play
Yeah.
Yerk solitaire.
Yeah, just be like, listen, I couldn't do any of the real work, but like, it's fuck off Friday today, so I wasn't gonna do anything anyway.
Yeah, it is. It is a little more anxiety inducing that he's the boss. But yeah,
Yeah, I guess.
just like I thought he was gonna tap into his computer and download into his brain all the info he needed or something, but instead he has a death vision.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Anyway,
Like
Jake,
like I said, I think it would have been better if instead of that vision, that scene, there was more of him trying to do the job. I think that would have been interesting to see. But oh well.
yeah, I think it would have just been funny, honestly, but maybe that's because I
Yeah,
don't
that could be
respect
good
work.
too. It
Yeah,
could be it could be played for comedy.
yeah, I'm down with it. Uh,
Yeah.
all right. Well, so Jake got captured. Unless you have more
Uh-oh.
to say about the job.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm done.
he got captured. He wakes up. He's imprisoned in a force field, and he is met by Marco Yerk Visser 2. Um, Marco brings in Cassie, whom he has captured, and he threatens to feed her to a Taxon unless Jake cooperates. So he does. He's like, here's the plan. I'll help you. Don't kill Cassie. And Marco's like, all right, cool. So you go back to your job, pretend like everything's normal. And when the EF contact you, we'll follow you and clean them all up. Ha ha ha. I'm so evil and I've broken you, my prisoner. Anyway, Jake heads back to work, and there's like an after work banquet taco Tuesday junk food party thing or something.
Hell yeah.
It kind of rules. I wish I had that. A Hork-Bajir approaches him and is like, I'm with the EF. You have to go to the, I guess it was like the New York Public Library or something to meet your contact. And he has to go meet his contact. And he goes to meet his contact, and his contact is Rachel. Whoa, even though Cassie said that Rachel was dead, she's still alive, and she's super fucked up. She's got like no legs and one arm and one eye, and she's in a wheelchair and can barely talk, but she's still alive. She's been fucked up, and she's with the EF. And she tells Jake to head to the New York Public Library. And then there's like a chase scene with some orphs as he goes there. All right. And this is the part where we start seeing like the like inconsistencies and stuff, right? Where like Rachel's still alive, even though Cassie said she was dead. Marco says he's Visser 3 instead of Visser 2, and he's like, hold on, but I thought you said it's yeah. So you start seeing a little bit of that here.
Well, because the Rachel thing, I just assumed she lied for some reason, or but yeah, the Visser 2 thing was like, huh? I kind of forgot that happens by the end. But yeah, it was weird. I did have also questions during this sequence of why when Jake does morph, everyone is shocked by it.
Yeah,
and I guess that's because Marco's Yerk didn't bother telling anyone. Like, I don't they know? Yeah, shouldn't they know who he is?
Yeah, right. Or like, I guess Rachel can't morph, right? Because she's not morphing out of this body.
I don't remember how they explained that one.
I think they just don't. And I feel like at some point around this chase scene, Jake is all like, I can't morph. Oh no, I was able to morph, but now I can't. But then, or maybe it's later on he thinks that. But at some point he's like, I was trying to morph and I couldn't, and I don't know why. It like things just start to not quite line up for like, I don't know, no reason.
Yeah, a bit strange, bit confusing. The whole scene here with Marco Yerk, I actually still think that Yerk Marco is funny, so I do like him.
Oh, that's funny because Jake says that Yerk Marco isn't as funny as regular Marco. He can't be.
Yeah, I think he's wrong.
Okay.
I think he's wrong. I think you can't. It doesn't matter what you do. Marco's wit and charm will always shine through.
That rhymes, right? Doesn't matter what you do. His wit and charm will always shine through.
Wow. That's really good.
Yeah, that's Marco's little yearbook quote.
That's really good. I mean, I don't know. I just have scattered thoughts, I feel like, about this section from when I was reading it. I'm wondering, is there a Yerk in Jake's head? Like, is he a Yerk going insane? Like he thinks he's a human, or he's just like got morphed with his human's thoughts or something like that. I'm also wondering, is this spoilers for a TV show? I won't name it, but is this like is this a big elaborate ruse? Because now they're interrogating him. So now my theory at this point was maybe he's still in the present. Tom captured him and put him in this device that makes him think all this shit is happening, and it's all to make him confess and give them details about the Andalite bandits, but it's still the present day. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so like a Taylor thing, but instead of the button, it's a vision.
Yeah, so it's like Cassie will be like, Jake, remind me again about where we met up and all the people we knew, and then that's when they take the helmet off and they're like, thanks for the info, dork, or something.
I believe Tom likes to call
Uh,
him a word that we're not supposed to say.
right.
Yeah.
Midget.
Well,
Um,
I didn't.
sorry, I said it with a hard M. And then I don't. So I'm really trying to figure out what the fuck is going on, and Nothing's really adding up, as we
Yeah.
said.
And it feels like you're
Also,
supposed to at this point. Like at this point, you are supposed to be like. Even Jake is questioning it. I think there's even a point where Jake's like, "Then none of this is even real, is it?" or something. Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
it's straight. And to push back on about my theory that I just said, it's
Uh huh.
also none of it makes sense because Yerks don't need to interrogate. You just put a Yerk in them.
Yeah.
Like that's all you need to do, and you'll get access to their entire brain.
Yeah. The only reason it didn't work with Tobias is because you can't the bird brain. You can't they can't infest the birds.
Right. So like I don't know if they even like why doesn't Marco do that now? I don't remember if they say.
I think Marco thinks he's part of the EF and therefore thinks he has a
Oh,
York in him already.
right. That's what it is. And that's why I'm
Yeah.
like maybe he really does have a Yerk. But don't they have a fucking scanner they can make sure there's one
Yeah,
in
right.
there? I don't know.
They got a fucking Gleet biofilter. They ought to be able to
Right.
just detect what.
Right. And then they're like, "You know what? Just go back to work and hope it's not too awkward with your coworkers since you turned into a tiger
Yeah.
and shit."
Yeah, I mean,
guess so.
that part is a
Yeah.
little more realistic to be all like, well, we don't want to just sweep you. Like, I want your EF contact, right? I want to, so like, I'll put you back and they can contact you. But
Right. It would make more sense if he didn't make such a public display, but
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
It's very weird. Everything about this is weird, and I guess maybe I'm realizing now these are all supposed to be hints that something is off, but it didn't feel hinty enough to me at the time. I was just going, "What the fuck?"
hmm
I don't
yeah. I
know.
mean, like this also though kind of gets close to again. It's just fucking megamorphs because as megamorphs went on, things started like just becoming inconsistent or like
Yeah.
oh, she teleported her. Only that time it was because Cassie was subtemporally grounded, and this time we don't have a Cassie from the pasty. So I don't know.
But it was more obvious because we understood the past,
Hmm
but this is a crazy future, so I don't know if things are supposed to be not make sense or if it's just in the future shit's weird.
I guess.
um yeah, or like there's something going on that I just don't know or don't understand because they haven't illuminated me on it yet.
Yeah.
Mother? Uh-huh. Father? Yep. Siblings? Children? Cousins? Oh yeah.
I don't even remember
That's
this
just
part, but I'm kind of liking it.
that's when he introduces a certain Taxon who ate all
Oh.
of those members of his family.
Oh yes, I did want to bring up this Taxon because I like him. He's my buddy.
Yeah, you love that guy.
Yeah.
I will say the most I ever liked the Taxon is in the next scene when they're downing pot pies.
Oh yeah, and everyone's cheering him on.
Yeah, they're like chug, chug, chug,
Yeah.
only it's pies.
Yeah. No, like I can see this is the part that works for me is this idea that like listen, Yerks aren't just like evil. They're forced into this militaristic structure. If you put them into like a just they got to work 9 to 5 jobs environment, then they just turn into regular dudes. So it's like after work, what do I want to do? I want to take my you wouldn't believe how many pot pies my Taxon buddy can eat. Oh yeah, well you haven't met my Taxon buddy. He could eat way more pot pies than yours. And so they just start scarfing them down, and everyone's like, "Woo!"
That's pretty great.
Yeah, it's good.
Pretty great.
Uh,
It is at this part of the book that I also had another question,
Yeah.
which I believe there's just no answer to.
You're probably right.
Where the fuck are the Chi?
They hid. They're underground.
they're
The Chi never
still
do
just chilling.
anything. They just kind of live there.
They would still be part of this resistance movement, I think.
Well, they might just. I mean, maybe they are. They'd probably just be around.
Cassie
They're
should have
feeding
said
information to Cassie.
Okay, sure. She should have said that. How about Toby? I guess they just got taken.
Yeah, they're probably all dead.
Yeah, that's fine. But I want to know. I want the updates. What about Myrtle?
Yeah. Myrtle's a V-Cole. He lives in the sewers with the Morlocks.
All right, fair enough.
See, I got answers for you.
Great, thanks for the answers. I should have known you'd have answers. I don't know anything about. I mean, the future Rachel. I guess that's the big thing here. Is she's fucked up?
Yeah, she's fucked up. Why?
Oh,
I
Jake
guess
even asks. Jake says, "Why didn't she morph to repair the damage?"
Yeah.
I was afraid of the answer, so he doesn't ask.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean? What could the answer be?
Yeah, I mean the answer is that we need her. This actually kind of loops a little bit back on like the misery porn comments I made about the Morlocks earlier. It's like why isn't she? Well, because the visual image of her without her legs and missing an eye and in a wheelchair is like fucked up, and it's like, okay, I mean, sure.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. It doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
I should have more to say about this future Rachel, but I'm just kind of like, yeah, she's fucked up. I guess that's weird, and then we just move on.
Well, that's because that's it. There's nothing about her other than that she's fucked up. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh well.
All right. So
and
Jake
also, like, why aren't you dead? But yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Also, why aren't you dead? Sure. Whatever. Anyway, yeah. Jake. He ran to the public library, right? When he gets there, he gets sucked through a hole in the floor, and he finds himself in like an underground park type,
like a
thing.
Glory hole.
Yeah, he gets sucked off through a hole.
Okay, go on.
But he's
25, guys. He's 25.
This isn't in the sewers like with the Morlocks. This is like in the more like a chi hole.
Fucking horrible phrase.
Why did I say that? But yeah, they're in like he's in like an underground park, and there's like trees, and there's children singing, and there's like Orph and Lyrans and Andalites and whatever, and they're all free. These people are all free. They don't have yerks. And so we learn a little bit more about the society. Normally, I guess, controllers are picked at random to breed, and then their children are taken away and raised in warehouses, and then the children are infested at the age of 15. So until the age of 15, they live in warehouses, and they just like spend all their days like running on treadmills to be fit hosts or something. So what the EF does is they break the kids out of the warehouses and they raise them in this hidden underground park, so that they can have actual childhoods. And Jake meets one of these kids named Justice, and has a conversation with him about his art or whatever. Jake leaves this underground area, and who should he meet when he leaves but Elfangor? Bet you weren't expecting me to see he say he met Elfangor.
I wasn't expecting me to say to met Elfangor.
Just like in those fan fictions where Elfangor's still alive. No, except psych, it's actually Tobias. Because you see, Tobias morphed into Axe and became an Axe Nothlet. And now he's all grown up, and Axe all grown up looks like Elfangor because they're brothers. So he and Elfangor have this pretty big conversation, and about terrorism or whatever, and he sends Jake off to the moon laser to sabotage it, right? Because it's time to sabotage the moon laser, and Jake's like, well, but what about Cassie? Because Marco still has her, and Tobias is like, you gotta choose, Jake. You gotta either save Cassie or save the world. Yeah. So okay. So
Jesus Christ. A lot. Again.
Listen, I got a lot to say. But I feel like it's all kind of thematically interrelated.
We're wrapping up. We gotta wrap up. We can't go so long. We can't.
I know. The problem is once we broke the 3-hour mark, anything's on the table.
No. We don't even have an email this week, nothing.
Oh no, what a disaster.
What do you think about this?
Yeah.
This is important. Yeah. Before we move on, what do you think about? I need teepee for my chi hole. What do you think about that?
I really, really like it. That's why this podcast episode is so long.
Okay, let me just say this. So this section where
Uh-huh.
he's going to I'm sort of confused. He's trying to go to the library, but he falls through a hole that takes him to a magic tree like Awa with a bunch of free children singing songs and holding hands and painting pictures.
Yeah, they're singing oh wah way say gunta go.
Yeah, I do like that. This part of the book sort of loses me. I don't really know what's happening or what I'm supposed to take away from this. How did he end up here? Why is he here? I don't know what the fuck this is.
Yeah. I have a note here. It's like it feels like we're just moving through a bunch of set pieces. You know, like we
Yeah.
we need to show, oh, the EF rescues children. They're doing good work. Okay, well, you got to go see that then, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's confusing. I
Hmm.
don't know. I'm also like, is this a dream? Is this happening still? I don't
Yeah.
know. Why is there a tree? I don't know. I kind of liked. I mean, I liked the backstory of the EF. I guess
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
kid whose name is Justice.
Yeah. Friends are Liberty and Storm. He kind of reminded me
Yeah,
of you a little bit.
I'm not sure what that's supposed to
The
mean.
bit where Jake's like, "Oh, I like what you're painting here. Look at this great. It's like an allegory for freedom." And he's like, "Oh, it's not a fucking allegory. All adults are always telling me I paint allegories. I'm just painting shit. It's just a picture." It
I
kind
do
of
like
reminded me
that.
of you a little.
All right, I'll take that. I'll accept that. He's a real artiste. This kid.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, but fine. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
whatever. It's weird, but we just move on from it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing in here is that when Jake has a conversation with this kid, there's like a bit where the kid's like, I want to be in the EF like you, and then I'll go save all my friends, right? And Jake's like, well, you can't. Sometimes you can't save your friends.
Oh
You got
yeah.
to go do. And the kid's like, well, I'll save my friends first, and then I'll save other people's friends. And it's not like, am I supposed to be reading this as like childish and naive? Like the kid doesn't understand the obvious reality that sometimes you can't do that, or like, because it feels like that's not what I'm supposed to see it as. But I sort of
Maybe.
am.
Yeah. I don't. It would be more in keeping, I think, with what Cassie's deal is. If it's supposed to be that it's kind of like Jake is seeing what he lost. Like he's now a hardened leader, and
Hmm.
he used to be. He's not idealistic anymore. I guess. Is that
Yeah,
it?
like I can see something toward this idea of like there's this, when we were kids, I have this childish desire to, I want to save my friends. And like when you come to terms with the reality and grow up, you're like, No, like we're in a war. You can't always save the people you know. The idea of always saving your friends first and, I'll get to everybody else is potentially stupid and selfish. And I get that, except it feels like the book is trying to say, like, actually, the kid has a point. But, like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't really feel to me like he does. It doesn't really, the book doesn't make, it feels like the book is trying to make me feel that, but then doesn't make me feel that.
It's a bit muddled. It is
Yeah.
definitely not. They don't really follow through with this idea, which is why I kind of just I just kind of ignored this whole section. I
Yeah.
was just like, I don't know what this kid is saying. I
Yeah.
this doesn't seem important.
I mean, I kind of, the reason I lumped this section with Jake talking to Tobias here is that kind of felt, the way in which that kind of feels muddled and doesn't really thematically resonate, I think mirrors the way in which this conversation with Tobias feels a bit muddled and doesn't really resonate,
Okay,
right?
so yeah, let's get into the Tobias.
Yeah.
He I I was going a little bit crazy reading this because I was like, what the fuck's happening? How's Elfangor here?
Yeah, right.
And then I'm like, okay, so it's Tobias, but how did Tobias get an Elfangor morph?
Hmm.
then and then okay, he finally told me. But then I do also have to question: is Tobias doing an impression of Elfangor in thought speak to Jake? Or no, I
I
guess he
don't know.
does. He sound. I guess he sounds like what an older axe would sound like.
I-
No, because when you morph into a bird, your voice isn't the bird's voice in thought speak. It's still your voice as a human.
Yeah, Tobias sounds like a kid. He's not saying like, "Hi, Jake."
Yeah,
When they
so does
talk.
his voice did his voice age? Does he sound older now in thought speak? Does thought speak age with your body?
It doesn't. Don't they don't? There's a lot of questions
These are
about thought
questions I
speak
have.
that doesn't really. Yeah,
Because otherwise, clearly Jake didn't go, "Hey, that's Tobias's voice coming out of
Yeah.
Elfangor." So Tobias like, "Oh, hey Jake, it's me." You
throw
know?
up my fucking hands at that. I don't know.
Okay, so that one you don't have an answer for. I finally stumped you.
Yeah, you got me.
Okay, now and also again, I don't understand because we saw a hawk before, but now that was not Tobias. So what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Well,
Okay, I don't know.
I think that was Tobias, but in the same way that Rachel died and now she didn't die, and Marco is Visser 2 and now he's Visser 3, and Jake was
Okay.
captured by Tom, and then here they say that Jake was killed by Tom.
If
Yeah.
it wasn't obvious to anyone who didn't read this book for some reason, these things don't exactly get neatly explained at the end of this. So there's a lot of aspects that I
Yeah.
guess I kind of just have to go, oh, that's what it is, I guess, but I don't really understand why.
I mean, I got an explanation, but it's not one that you'll like, and it's not one that makes it make more sense. But
But
whatever.
before we get there,
Yeah.
you can have a minute and a half
Oh God.
of rant.
Oh no.
I'm allotting you 90
Oh
seconds
no.
and
No, I
no
can't.
more.
I can't do 90
No
seconds.
more. No more. No less. I mean, look. I'm just gonna say whatever you're gonna say, I think I agree with. I'm sure I just won't feel quite as emphatic
That's fair.
and emotional about it as you do. But I do. This is a section where basically Tobias is arguing that terrorism is wrong.
Or Tobias is arguing that it's right, and Jake's arguing that it's
Oh,
wrong.
that's okay. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I wasn't. It almost reads like Tobias is kind of being like, but Jake, terrorism. I don't really know if he's doing reverse psychology or something. I don't know what the fuck his angle is. Maybe I don't know. But he does have a quote where he says, "Action is the surest path to change," which I'm like, no arguments here. That seems pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not too. That seems pretty uncontroversial.
Yeah. And I mean, Jake is also coming back and using weird phrases like your brand of terrorism and half freedoms, which I don't know what that's about, right? Like, what half freedoms? They put those people in the underground park and they're free. It feels like the half freedom's coming from the Yerks. I don't know.
Well, they don't get to have a nice job in the city.
Yeah, it feels odd. But yeah, it like there's a lot of Jake. There's a lot of Jake being all like, I don't like the terrorism. I don't like the tactics, and Tobias kind of mirroring that with like that's naive. You got to do what you got to do. This is what it takes to win, kind of thing. Which mirrors what we were talking about earlier with Cassie.
And kind of feels like maybe this is how Jake was feeling personally at the beginning of the book, but now he's seeing it on a grand scale, and it's like dawning on him that maybe that's not the way. Is that what I think that's maybe what it's supposed to be doing?
So, I mean, okay, here's the thing. When I read this, my thought was that wasn't that it was supposed to be doing any of that. My thought was that, you're just kind of like trying to do the standard, oh, it's bad, but it's not, whatever. And I don't know, because Animorphs likes to have this gray area where it's like kind of bad to do the violence, but it's necessary to do it and blah, blah, blah. And it's weird here because Jake was like, this is what they've been doing all Animorphs, right? They've been doing this all Animorphs. And now it's like all of a sudden a problem when Jake sees them doing it in the future. And it's kind of
they are
it's kind of
literally a terrorist group from the perspective of the Yerks.
Yeah, the kids are literally a terrorist group the entire time. And so when I was reading this, I was just like, it feels like they're just trying to like do the same thing, but it doesn't work. It doesn't resonate. And I'm not sure why it doesn't work exactly here. Um, but like, okay, so when I like tried to sit down and think like why doesn't it work and why doesn't it resonate, I started feeling like okay, it feels like fundamentally the author is looking at this differently, in this situation, and when I like, oh, why is that? Why is terrorism all of a sudden bad when it wasn't before? Why does this, because I don't think that Ellen Giroux thought this through. I think she was just like, it feels bad in this scenario in a way that it didn't in Animorphs. And it really, to me, it feels like in regular Animorphs, it's like, oh, well, the Yeerks are an underground infiltrating like guerrilla group. And so, of course, an underground infiltrating guerrilla group is okay to fight them. But like now the terrorists aren't fighting other terrorists. Now the terrorists are fighting the status quo. And so it feels different. We're not going to your secret location. I'm blowing up a building. I'm attacking people's jobs and livelihoods and like a government. And so now it feels different. It feels like bad terrorism now, even though the society you're attacking is obviously evil. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, it feels like this is coming from like a fundamentally like reactionary emotion on the part of the author. And it really made me feel like I hate this. Like when I read it the first time, I was like, fine, I don't care. But when I thought about it, I was like, this sucks. I hate the fuck this conversation. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
You see what I'm saying, kinda? I'm trying
I
to
no,
summarize it and keep it quick.
I get it. I knew that you would have that reaction as I
Hmm.
read it. And
Hmm.
like I said, you're not wrong. You're totally right. It is it feels disingenuous, it feels hypocritical to like chastise. Now, I think the angle that it works from is from a character perspective, like Jake personally feeling conflicted about what is right and wrong,
Hmm.
and what is the line between freedom fighter and murderer or what have you. There's a lot of gray area and discussion you can have in there. What feels wrong is, I guess, Tobias specifically being like, actually, all that stuff is not. I don't remember who the fuck's on which side. Jake's the one who says it's bad, and Tobias says it's good, right? I don't know.
Yeah, because
The
Jake
book
Jake
the
is
book
like
is
trying to
saying it's
call.
wrong.
Yeah, Jake's like trying to call him out, and Tobias is like, "Oh, sabotage and terrorist offensives make you morally uneasy. You want a better way," and it's like, yeah,
Right.
I don't buy it because like sabotage and terrorist offensives are what they've been doing this entire series. And Jake has felt moral conflicts, but never about the idea of sabotage or terrorism. He's felt moral
Mm.
conflicts about some of the people who've gotten like killed who are innocent bystanders. He
Remember that
he's
old guy who
felt
had a heart attack?
yeah, like the old guy who had a heart attack. He's had moral conflicts about like the psychological toll it's taking on his team and how he's making him do that. But the idea that like, oh, we're going in there and using terrorist offensives and sabotage, that's never bothered him until now. And it really to me feels like because until now they're not like bombing status quo institutions and that's somehow different. I don't know.
Yeah, it almost reads like this came out post 9/11. Like, and they were like, "Oh shit, we better do something about this." It does feel strange. Maybe it would play better if this were a Cassie POV and she was the one struggling with it, and
Mhm.
Jake was the cool freedom fighter.
Yeah, except
Even
Cassie
though I don't.
already struggles with it. So like what new thing are we like how is
Well,
she
yeah, but
growing? I don't know. Yeah,
that's
maybe
that's
maybe
sort
it
of
would
just
still work
par for the
better.
course. Maybe. I mean, it's just like a possibility. Like maybe the issue is that they're coming at it less from a character standpoint, and
Yeah.
it more feels like the book is lecturing the reader.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, when you tie it back into Cassie, when you talk about how Jake is worried about like what his treatment and use of Cassie has done to her here, in a way that he'd never considered, like he'd never considered the final consequences of before, that hits. But when you talk about just like, oh, the bad thing that Jake is doing by being a terrorist, it's like that doesn't hit because it's not bad. Like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
like, it's like, oh, okay, well, it was totally fine to send fucking soldiers to go fight the Nazis on the battlefield because soldiers are supposed to die on the battlefield, but God forbid someone try to like, sabotage a Nazi factory and blow it up because that's terrorism. No, it's fuck off. It's the same. Anyway.
But I don't, and maybe you're supposed to feel that way. I don't know. I don't know if the book is. I don't know why my memory's failing about this section, but I don't know if maybe it's not supposed to be as maybe you're supposed to be open ended a little bit. I mean, it is a universe that's like a hypothetical kind of not real universe that's also confusing things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really wonder what Kay Applegate would say about this today, and or if I mean, should what were her feelings about this then versus now? Because that is also a factor, is that I do think that's more of a even pre 9/11, but especially right after it.
Yeah.
Like views on that sort of thing have shifted, maybe not for the mainstream, but
yeah.
I don't know.
It's
a big, complicated subject.
It is a big, complicated subject, but if it
And
wasn't clear to anyone listening, I am pro-terrorism. Just 100% critical support to all terrorists.
I'm literally sitting here like, fuck. I think it's a joke, kind of, but I don't know how much. Which part is a joke? I can't tell. I would just. I think the failing of the book is not that they put this conversation. I think it's a good concept. I just think they don't have the time or the space or necessarily the platform to really explore it to the extent that it needs to be explored. So it probably would have been better to just not have it. But
yeah,
I don't know.
I think. Listen, I think that Animorphs as a series is always like circling around these thematic ideas in a way that is better than this, and is more coherent than this. I just don't. Yeah, I feel like it really feels like a particularly bad failing to me to not be able to talk about this particular idea of like the moral vagaries of war coherently.
Well, let's wrap this fucking shit up quick.
Yeah. Let's get this done. All right. So there's a big action sequence. Jake goes to the Chrysler building. Cassie's hostage there. There's a bunch of action. It culminates in a scene where Cassie's about to fall off the building, and the ray is about to fire at the moon to turn it into a Kandrona in just a few seconds. And Jake can either blow up the moon like he's supposed to, or save Cassie, but he can't do both. And he makes up his mind to make a decision, but before we see what that decision is, he wakes up. Jake wakes up in the morning, the next morning after the beginning of the book. And he hears a voice in his head, which is explicitly some new thing. It's not the Elemist, it's not Crag, it's not the Drode. And the voice is like, interesting choice, these humans. Oh, they'll require more study. And we end the book with Jake going to give Cassie a call on the phone and ask her how she's doing about the stuff that happened at the Ragzin building. Okay.
So I don't really have anything to say about anything besides the ending of all this stuff with like the big action and we got to stop the moon. It's I liked it. It's cool. It's fun, but it's just kind of like, there's not really much to analyze, in my opinion. It's one of those.
We've already analyzed it. It's just kind of this microcosm, like, oh, do you save your friends or do you save the world? What's more important or something, whatever. And then we got this thing.
And then we got this thing. So, and this is a thing that you have an answer to and I don't. You're
not going to like what I'm about. Oh yeah, no, to ask your question, I guess.
Well, it's not really a question. It's just like, oh boy. Basically, like you said, the voice is in his head. It's not the Elemist.
Mm-hmm.
It just sounds like it was a different Elemist
Hmm.
either just fucking around, which again, up until this point, we still don't really have confirmation of whether or not there's more than one Ellimist.
Hmm.
That has never been established so far.
You're
we also
right.
haven't seen the Ellimist in like 12 books or something. So
Yeah, except at the end
or
of the last book that
right.
came out the exact same
Sorry.
month.
Right. Sorry. Yes. But until that. Yeah. And for like, 5 pages or something. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of like, huh? So it just seems the answer, it seems, is it wasn't a dream. Or I don't even know what you fucking call it. It was either, we still
Yeah.
don't really know. Either this Ellimist, it could have been a vision of a real future or a possible future, or it could have been completely made up. We
Yeah,
don't know.
there's no way to tell. It's like a dream, but it was a lot more real than a dream because it was put in his mind by this thing to explore how he would cope with this question of like saving Cassie or saving the world or something like this. And
Right.
yeah, and so yeah, so again, question: are Orf even real? Is any of this a foregone? Like, it's not even like, is this a foregone conclusion? Like in book 7, where you don't know if the future can be changed. It's like, is this even the future? Is this even a possible future? Who knows? This thing put it there.
So are you going to tell me now that we never find out?
I am going to
Or-
tell you now that this thing never comes up again and isn't anything. It's just a voice that showed up here to do this.
That's
I have heard fan theories on other beings that this could be, and what they all boil down to is like, hey, remember how they said in book 26 that Krayak got kicked out of his galaxy by a power greater than him? That's another thing that they mentioned in the series that would be strong enough to do this. So it could have been that. And it's like, okay, so what evidence was it that it was that? Well, it could have been. Right? It's like this never comes up. This is not like, it's just a thing that happens.
that yeah, that really sucks. That sucks.
It really does suck a lot.
Well, that's that's weird. That is because it seems like it would be so easy to just say it was Ellimist or
yeah, just
something.
say it was the element. Say it was the fucking drone.
Why not just say it? Yeah. Yeah, why not?
I mean, listen, I'm not usually a Drode guy, but this is a book that could use the Drode bump.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Now, well, and there's also the very end, which I like, where I like the final end where Jake calls Cassie and he's just so relieved that he's back in his own world, and he just calls her and asks if she's okay.
Yeah, and
I thought that was very sweet and affecting. I really liked it.
Yeah, that works really well. That's a nice tie up to the Cassie emotional hook. The idea of like, I neglected Cassie's emotional needs, and I can't do that because she, I love her and she matters to me, and maybe, I was like trusting that she'd be okay, but maybe she won't, and I got to be there for her. Like, that works. That's good.
Yeah. Why is this book called The Familiar?
I don't. Because because it's pretty familiar to another story that came out the same month. I'm getting a lot of sense of.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Is it because he looks in the mirror and he's like, that guy looks familiar. Oh, yeah, it's me.
Yeah, that could be.
Here's what I'm going to say, or unless, do you have something else? I have final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts is where I am too.
Final thoughts, and I think they might surprise you.
Okay.
Or not. But maybe they will.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I still really like this book.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think I might like it better than Back to Before.
That's crazy.
I just really liked reading it.
Dang, wow.
There were a couple of sequences that, like I said, didn't quite make sense or work for me. But I do not have nearly the bugaboo that you do about the types of things of which that terrorism thing is one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very willing to just look past it and go, yeah, it's a little weird, but that's whatever. I can think about that later.
Mm-hmm.
I just like I said, really for me, the only thing that's like a damper on this book is that we just did it.
Hmm.
But in a vacuum, I guess I'm just a sucker for these stories, and I think it's just so much fun to imagine what is the what if of this future. And I do like that at the end, it's sure it kind of is quote unquote just a dream,
It's
but
very close to that. Yeah.
I guess maybe I'm just headcanoning it, that I'm like, I'm just headcanoning that it is a possible future. And there is still development for Jake. He doesn't forget it all. He
Hmm.
does remember it. And the journey was so much fun for me. I thought it was great. And when I was done, I looked up Ellen Giroux. I thought, you know what? I'm looking forward to the rest of this season. I was like, I'm hopeful about her books going forward, because it seems like she's maybe got a good head on her shoulders.
I do think that the writing in this is pretty decent, and some of the issues are just like maybe it could have used more of an editor or a better outline. I do like this book probably more than you might have expected me to, knowing my little bugaboos, as you say. I think that this story is a lot of fun. Uh, I don't like the ways in which it doesn't really fit into the rest of the series or the plot, and I think a lot of the ways in which it tries to like develop its themes are incoherent, and that does bother me. But the one thing that does work is the Jake Cassie relationship angle. Um and that works for me partially because even if this isn't a possible future, and even if you did read it as literally it's just a dream and there wasn't a being, there is still that element there of Jake saying, I can't deal with Cassie, Jake worrying about who Cassie might become, and Jake coming to a realization, I have to care more for Cassie. That means something to me. That's powerful. That's important. So, there's a part of me that almost wonders if like if you were, I might like it better if you stripped out all the parts where it was clearly trying to have a message or a theme, and literally the entire point was just like, boy, wouldn't it be fucked up if that happened? Like I might almost, you know what I mean? Because then I
Yeah,
could
that's
enjoy
sort of
it
more
like
to what I
you.
was saying. Yeah.
It's like, but it's like I can't enjoy it just like you because you have these whole conversations where they're trying to talk to you about a theme. I have to engage with
Yeah.
that.
I guess
Anyway,
my engagement is more just, I'm just like, oh, that's interesting to think about, and whether I agree with it or not. And
mhm.
I'm okay with the book maybe kind of being wrong or something.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't mind it if it was it just being wrong if it weren't also like incoherent or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, like you're not wrong. There are definitely issues with it, but yeah, like I just liked it. I just had fun. I was just having fun. And maybe I just like Samurai Jack so much. I want like
Mm.
this is like a pilot episode. I want a full series that takes place in this world, because this is, I guess it's just like cyberpunk. I mean, like you, I loved 1984 as a kid, so the dystopian future thing is something that I really like. So that alone goes a long way for me forgiving shit that maybe doesn't work.
Mhm. I'm
um,
excited for the rest of the season because, like, not only do I think that, like, yeah, on the whole, she is still a good writer, and we're going to see a lot more of her, but also I feel like this season we've had more discrepancies on our opinions on books
it's
than, like,
true.
ever before. And there are a lot of books coming up that I'm just like, I solidly know how I feel about this book. And I have no idea. Like, even going into this book, I was like, I already kind of know I have negative feelings. John might love it, or he might agree with me on everything. I don't know, you know.
Yeah,
So,
it's gonna be a wild ride. I'm
yeah,
riding high right now. I two books in a row that I really really enjoyed. I'm feeling like
maybe the
I'm
whole
feeling
series
fun
should
and fancy free.
take place in the future from now on.
I'd love it.
Yeah,
Okay, look, we have to fucking go before we
do
hit the
some
3 hour mark.
references.
Her fist slammed the dumpster. Looks like I should be given a testimonial on a Tybo commercial. Detroit scored, and Marco jumped up and smacked a Pepsi all over my jeans and sneakers. Looked like I belonged to Gold's Gym. Oh, yeah, he's fucking muscular. We didn't mention that
Oh
part of
yeah.
it. He doesn't look muscular on the cover, though. It's like Tom Hanks in that movie Big, new Patreon episode. Jumpsuit, the color of a sun-bleached Orioles cap, the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center. Look, there's a million New York references. The Chrysler Building. I don't know if these count. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can shout Hamlet's soliloquy or scream Limp Bizkit lyrics. You can blare the Star-Spangled Banner or stomp an American flag. I liked that. All true. Like I'd driven a Kawasaki into their living rooms, a fraction the size of Central Park, the wasteland of Times Square. It's Ground Zero we were referring to earlier. Coca-Cola, JVC, or Calvin Klein. Any express from Midtown to Soho. The McDonald's on the corner was a burned-out shell. Chrysler Building with its Mylar sheath. Mylar is a trademarked thing.
Yes,
Look
it
it up.
is.
Cover of an old Sports Illustrated stack of yellowed New York Times. My host used to work for the ACLU. Weird. Hanging with Gotham's Most Wanted. I assume that's a Batman reference? I wasn't sure. Like Alice in Wonderland, I was shooting through blackness like the baobabs of Africa I've seen on the Discovery Channel. Star Wars Episode 1 poster tacked to the wall. We love that. And the Schwarzenegger thing was history.
Good job.
How's that? New record?
New record. New record. God damn. Where they can follow us on Patreon.
That's why we plug it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/the Yerky Boys. We're doing X-Files this week. I'm extremely excited about that one. And email us, the yerkyboys@gmail.com.
Yeah,
Don't
try to
follow
push
me
us over
or him.
3 hours next time.
You can do it. That's honestly the thing about this book too, is that there was like new stuff to dissect. That does add a lot of time, like as in literally a new universe, whereas normally we're not like talking about what an Andalite is, you know?
Yeah. Also,
So-
we fucked around too much.
No, it was a good one.
Thanks everyone for listening. Tune in next time when we'll be talking about book 42, The Journey, in which Rachel turns into an elephant on the Yerky Boys.
I've done that before.